Hi everyone, and welcome back to episode 12 of the Lookout Sir 40k podcast. Happy New Year, everybody. Although we appreciate it's probably a little bit late in the day to start saying that. I think we're at least, halfway through January now, so it probably feels a little bit silly to start talking about Happy New Year's now. But nonetheless, we're doing it all the same because this is our first episode back after the Christmas/New Year's period. We imagined we might have done something a little extra after we did that long episode recapping how we performed at GT Heat 3, but it turns out we didn't because we were all too happy being happy within the Christmas period. And when I talk about happy people, there's none happier than the jolly man himself, dear old Phil. How are you doing, Phil?
I am good, thank you. I was going to for a minute do a really grumpy, oh hello, but no, you bigged me up too much, so I won't do that.
It's true. And everyone knows that you're an incredibly jolly chap, mate. I don't think it would have washed, They would have been like, who is this grumpy sounding fella? That's not the Phil I know and love.
Oh, well, that's kind of you to say.
Are you suggesting that that's not a true account of your personality? Do you feel actually a bit grumpy in yourself?
Oh, always. Yeah.
Really?
It's a general undertone, but I hide it well.
Well, exactly. I've always thought of you as such a lovely man, Phil. I never really would have, wanted to think of yourself as a grumpy fella. It kind of hurts me a bit that you feel that way about yourself. Don't be like that, Phil. You're better than that.
Grump.
A happy grump. Well, indeed. I mean, if you want to talk about happy, grumpy people, I suppose, there's none better than dear old Joe. Joe, how are you, grumpy man?
I'm doing relatively well.
See, look at that. Yeah. The grumpiness. The lack of optimism shining through.
Yeah, just life, browbeaten, weather beaten.
Blimey.
Beaten.
I mean, what's the relativity that you're trying to express by saying that you're relatively happy? Are you basing on your own limited perception of reality, or is that more that you're trying to not project something a little bit too happier than you should be, so as you're not upsetting anyone who might have differing ideals about happiness than you?
Pretty big mouthful, but yeah, why not?
Well, sometimes it takes that many words to express how you feel, Joe.
Yeah. I'm not one in life. I express emotion. I'm capable of these things.
Absolutely.
I have difficulty talking about them.
Oh, I see.
That's a whole different therapy session.
Well, there you go. So what you're saying here is we've opened up some serious wounds and need to move on to something else entirely.
I'm gonna be spending a lot of this evening just crying in the bathroom.
How is that any different from any other night of the week?
I had 20 minutes.
Oh, there you go. What a delight. How was Christmas and or New Year's for you guys, though? Phil, did you do much of any hobby stuff whatsoever while you were away for the last 4 weeks?
Oh, well, I've occasionally talked about this on the podcast. I've been doing a little sponsons kit for the Lehman Russ, just to turn it from external sponsons into internal sponsons, and I basically finally got around to flogging some casts that I'd made.
Oh, wow.
So I've done that, and it's been relatively successful, and I'm still working through like a little back order of orders that I've got, so I'm slowly doing that. And
are they still available for purchase, Phil? Where do the people need to go to discover about your internal sponsons?
Oh, well, as a shameless plug, you can go to beyondthetabletop.com/shop, and you can then click on a link to get them from there.
There you go.
They're available on effectively a back order or pre-order, just because I don't have any in stock, because as soon as I've made them, I've sort of shipped them off.
There you go.
People have already done their orders. So I've been doing that at the moment, and I've been scratch building a coax battle cannon of sorts for the Mars Alpha turret, which is the Forge World Lehman Russ.
Wow.
So I'm doing that at the moment. And they're my two things that I've done, and that's about it.
Are you going to be doing any more mouldings and tank designs?
Yeah, I've got some ideas, and I felt quite encouraged by the sort of small demand on the sponsons, so I might do a few more as just little side projects. And then tie that in with the YouTube channel that I've done. Oh, because I recently hit 1,000 subscribers.
Oh my god!
Which is pretty good. Ding, 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 ding.
That's an incredible achievement, man. Why was that not the first thing you said? That's an amazing result.
Oh, I forgot about it. Well, it only happened like 2 days ago, or yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, it's there, I think. So it's kind of cool.
There you go. What does YouTube give you when you hit 1,000 subs? Is there anything?
Literally nothing.
Oh wow! Okay. Well,
it gives you a share thing, so you can send a message to people that says, "I've hit 1,000 subs," and when you click on it, it says something like, not hot potatoes. It says like, "Oh, banana. This is bananas with some banana emoji GIF things."
Wow. There you go.
I'll tell you that.
That's incredible. I never realised there was such a close association between bananas and 1,000 subscribers. Who was to think?
No, exactly.
Is it like anniversaries? So like the first one is, I don't know the order in which anniversaries are supposed to work, but I imagine, it gets to more precious metals as you go along. Will you find that if you hit 2,000 subscribers, you'll have a more exotic fruit given to you?
Maybe. It might be chocolate eclairs, because they're sort of banana-shaped, but, sweeter.
You are aware a chocolate eclair is not a fruit, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
You mean it's not one of my 5 a day?
That was what I was trying to make sure, Phil. I mean, that might explain a few things right there, right?
Well, that would indeed.
Certainly for me. Joe, you done anything hobby-based lately? What have you been up to?
Over Christmas...
Yeah.
And the New Year. Well, I spent a lot of the Christmas period up in Manchester at my partner's mum's house. I took loads of Warhammer stuff with me, which then probably sat in the boot of my car for the entire time. I never managed to actually get it out.
Wow.
But since the New Year, I've done my New Year, New Army.
Oh yeah.
Which I'm doing my Death Watch at the moment, whilst painting Blood Angels at the same time.
Magical stuff. Magical stuff.
Yeah. Although I will probably get to about April, May time and just be sick of power armor.
And you've got nothing to sell, nothing you've been moulding, no 1,000 subscribers or anything of that nature?
Oh God, no.
No? You can tell people about the Instagram account where you post pictures of your new army and boast about how clever you are for painting them.
Well, yeah, I've got an Instagram, which is subtle painting. I need all the subs I can get because I'm a long way behind Phil. I've got a lot of ground to cover.
Well, that's it, you see. That's it. Phil's climbed the mountain, and there you are, down at base camp with all the animals, the livestock. Not up on the top of the hill with all those bananas like Phil.
My social media is not fruit bearing, unfortunately.
One day, mate. One day. It'll happen, mate. It'll happen. And I know no one's going to ask me because I kind of do the question asking here, but I'll tell you anyway. Over the course of the last few weeks of Christmas, I just played loads more games. Obviously, Chapter Approved 2018 came out, so I took it upon myself to start playing games of 40k in preparation for events and more tournament fun to come. On the topic of tournaments, I won another tournament in pool. It was a doubles tournament. So me and a lovely chap called Matt, who contributes to a particularly long dead YouTube channel called 40k Brawl, played 3 games of Warhammer 40,000 doubles in pool on a random Saturday during the Christmas period. And he carried me to victory, which was very noble of him, and showed me the error of my ways by allowing me to actually spend a bit more time with shining spears in action in tournament settings. My goodness, they're really good.
Yeah, dumb.
They are pretty dumb. They are a fun bunch. I think the thing is the Samhan Craft World attribute in combination with those guys is just crazy awesome. And you don't even need to run them as Ynnari. There was a time where I was thinking about, for the Grand Tournament Finals, to run a Ynnari detachment, but I just, for the same reasons I stated in the prior episode, I just can't be bothered with Ynnari. So I'm going to still continue to run a pure Craft World list at this time anyway. I reserve the right to change my mind as always. But yeah, no, just played a bunch of games. It was a good time. It was a lovely experience overall. Didn't really paint anything. Built a bunch of new stuff. I am also working on a Talons of the Empire or Talons of the Imperium or whatever it is Custodians and Sisters of Silence army, which is entirely built around the idea of being fluffy and fun. So by my own assessment, it's a terrible army list. It won't win any competitive games, but it doesn't always need to be that way. I actually occasionally like playing for fun, believe it or not. So
I do not believe it.
It's true. It's just been, I don't know, man. I've been on that journey, you know. I've been going for the competitive gaming. I've been trying my best to get good at being all right at it, and you know, I got lucky on a few occasions over the course of 2018, which is super cool.
Has your big rule book ever opened on the pages that say narrative gaming?
No, never. I didn't even know they were there. What's this you're talking about? What? I think Vigilus, Vigilus, as far as I'm concerned, that new campaign book they put out for old Vigilus Defiant, as far as I'm concerned, it's like a 6-page or 10-page pamphlet about detachments, isn't it?
No. Weirdly, because obviously, and you know, spoilers, we might be talking about that book later today, but in preparation, I was predominantly reading the story of it rather than any of the other bits. Or, I mean, obviously, first thing I did was look at the detachments. Well, and then I was like, okay, get that out of the way. And then I went back and then actually have been reading the rest of it, which is actually really good.
So, throughout the course of today's show, we're going to talk about 3 things. One thing you've probably heard loads about from other people, but ultimately, you know, this is the first one we've done in 4 weeks, and although they've announced a bunch of new stuff, we haven't actually got around to talking about it in any detail. So we will talk a little bit about Vigilus, although, funnily enough, I'm talking about that first, even though it's likely to be the thing we talk about last. I have to be honest, the order of which this podcast comes together is as of yet undetermined. So, based on the fact that I've introduced it first within this series of things I'm going to talk about, let's say that that's going to be coming up first, though we are definitely not recording it first. Nonetheless, we're going to talk about Vigilus. So each of us is going to pick a thing from Vigilus to talk about and see how we feel about it. There has been an FAQ for Vigilus as well quite recently, so we'll talk a little bit about that and the impact that has on certain things. Or was that a chapter approved and Vigilus FAQ, right?
It was both, yeah.
Yeah, fine. Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit about how that all works in concert. Then we will talk about our highlights from 2018. So, again, just sort of wrapping things up. As I say, we appreciate it's now middle way through January. Things are moving on, but we still like to talk about the stuff we enjoyed in 2018. So that's both, 40k related stuff that we found to be super awesome, alongside some personal highlights as well. And then we're going to wrap it up by talking about our predictions for 2019 and beyond. What do we suspect might happen with the ongoing story of Vigilus? We hear that in 60 days some crazy man's going to turn up or something along those lines. How's all that going? And other related or unrelated topics. Does that sound logical to all concerned?
Yeah, makes sense.
Wonderful. Well, with no further ado, some transitional noises inbound as we move on to section 1. Enjoy. Woo!
Love.
What was that?
That was my help to transitional noise.
What did you even say? You just said blood.
Wobble-up.
Wobble-up. I heard just blood. I was like, bloody hell.
Yeah, and you got a bit of it.
All right, well, brilliant. Cool. Shall we get on with the next section then?
Yeah.
All right, fine. Let's do that then. Off we go.
And we're back, and now we're going to be talking about the Vigilus Defiant campaign book. We've also been joined by our soon-to-be no longer American correspondent, and he'll be a UK resident. Richard, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing good.
You're coming back to the UK at a great time, Rich. It's a great time to be British.
I'm coming back to Europe.
Yeah, Europe. Woo!
And with that, let's get talking about Vigilus Defiant. Richard, because you're the new member, do you want to kick us off, and do you want to talk about your favourite 2 things from the book?
Yes, I'd love to talk about that. So, as regular listeners all know, I'm a big fan of Elysian drop troops. And so I was particularly excited about all the leaks about the Tempestus drop force stuff that was going to be in this. And I was not disappointed. It was actually a really, really cool, what are they, the special command detachments they're called? I forget what they're called.
Specialist detachments.
That's the one. Thank you, Dan.
Sorry.
No, I was really excited to see this one, to see what kind of rules it gave, and it was really cool. The one they've given there specifically for a Tempestus force, so I'm going to need to get some more Scions for official events, but I can proxy some of my Elysian drop troops to test this out. But I really, really like the sound of what they've done with this particular force, in that the way it combos together. So the most important thing is that for one command point now, you can specify so that when you're and it's actually, just to be clear, it's not about just dropping out of space like deep striking onto the wall. It's specifically coming out of Valkyries. So by those Valkyries, they must have too many in the warehouse, and that's what they're pushing with this. But the idea is you jump out of that Valkyrie, and for 1 CP you can do the aerial, the grav shooting.
Precision drop.
Yes, well, it's called precision drop, but it's grav shoot insertion was what I was referring to, which is where normally, so basically you bomb it across the board in your Valkyrie and you jump out at any point. As it stands, the minute you have to roll the dice over a unit on a 1, it suffers a mortal wound, which usually kills whatever, or it's dead into automatically. I forget which one it is, but the point is it's not good. With precision drop for 1 CP, that's not a thing. Everyone just jumps out and is totally safe. And where this is particularly exciting is the fact that you can now combo it, so that when you're next to, if you jump out of there with two squads of Scions and a commander, they can then get the turn they get out, they are re-rolling 1s, and they're also exploding 5 and 6s. Rather than regular exploding 6s for the Scions, which means that's which I remember. So everyone's going to be taking these as plasma guns, plasma gun squads, jumping out of a Valkyrie, rapid firing, exploding 6s and rerolling 1s. It's going to be really cool. I can't wait to try that out. It's going to be really, it's a really cool, kind of more aggressive style of play, because taking Valkyries is an expensive way of getting across the board for these guys, but it means you can get there in turn 1, which means I expect to see lots of Tempestus drop forces and then dropping down Maltas or Plasmas in turn 1, getting in the faces of whatever scary stuff you have, and then just rapid firing it to death.
What's the transport capacity of a Valkyrie these days?
It's 12.
Oh, 12, okay. So you could take 3 command squads of 4.
Well, you could, but you wouldn't, because you have to have the commander with the warlord trait with you to get most of the bonuses.
Ah, yeah, but you could take 2 Valkyries, couldn't you?
Oh yeah, you could take 2 Valkyries and you could spam them full of command squads and regular squads.
Yeah, it's like if you took 3 command squads and 1 Valkyrie and did the precision drop on them, you'd have 12 plasma guns come down, and then you could take the 3 HQ choices that you have to take the command squads in another one with, I don't know, a 5-man unit of regular, just a 5-man unit of regular Scions or something, I don't know, whatever, or Bulgarins. Can you take Bulgarins in them?
Yeah, you can take Bulgarins, and there's no real advantage in doing it because the Bulgarins you could already do that. They don't get any additional bonuses. The cool thing about the grav shoot insertion has always been that you can disembark at any point during the move, and while you disembark, you have to be 9 inches away from an enemy. You can then move immediately, so you can get straight into charge range.
I was also going to say, what was the ruling? Because I know there was an HQ stipulation that you need to have a company commander, or rather a Tempestus Prime, to then take a command squad. Do they need to be in the same detachment?
I don't know the answer to that. I know that I don't know the specific wording. The general, it's definitely a case of you can only have 1 command squad per commander.
I think that's all they've worded it, so I presume that's just for your army, so you could in theory split that out over different detachments if needed.
So you could have a battalion. You could have a battalion with 2 Tempestus Primes in it as your 2 HQ choices. Then have a Vanguard detachment with one of them, which becomes the warlord of the Tempestus drop force, and then you combo that with the 3 command squads, which would be your 3 elite choices, right? So that would actually be pretty terrifying. So you could have a Vanguard thing with your 2, because you could still take 2 flyers in that. Take the 2 flyers, take the Vanguard stuff, take your 3 commanders in the other plane along with, as I say, Bolgrins or something, whatever your other token offering is. And yeah, that'd be terrifying, wouldn't it? That'd be lovely. Yeah. I like the sound of that.
Well, the other kind of cool, interesting thing they add to this, which it's more situational, so I'm not sure how and where it would best apply, is that there's now a thing for aerial fire support for 1 CP, which means that the Valkyrie they jumped out of, as if it's within 6 inches of a squad, can fire Overwatch on behalf of the squad if the squad gets charged. And it hits on 4+. So that's a cool, like, Tau style thing, but it hit Overwatch on 4+ with a Valkyrie, which I think is going to be cool because it means that, say, against Orcs or Tyranids or more melee-focused army, you can basically drop your guys in at point-blank range to fire, and then if whatever doesn't kill you, if it's normally that would then charge you, you don't have to worry so much, because you've got the whole, you're exploding on 5s and 6s, you're re-rolling, plus then you've got the actual Valkyrie's guns can fire as well. I've not come up against that scenario where that would be useful, because normally against anything melee focused, I don't want to be nowhere near it, but it would be interesting to see how you could play that out now as that gives you that option.
Yeah, you could do that risky strategy of going a bit closer to some close combat stuff, or just not worrying about a counter attack of any kind. Like even if they're just deep striking in their own deployment zone in their second turn.
Do Valkyries typically have anti-armor or anti-infantry guns?
So the Valkyrie, as standard, comes with a multi-laser and Hellstrike missiles.
Oh, fine. So it's confused, or is Hellstrike missiles not
it's
anti-armor?
It's the new. Okay, so it's the Hellstrike missiles are anti-armor. They're the new cheaper variety. So they're like only 12 points. Most people will. If you're going to be using this approach to get the Overwatch on the Valkyrie, you're going to definitely replace the Hellstrike missiles with the 2 rocket pods and put heavy bolters on there to make it more like a mobile gun platform. Which will be interesting to see if more people take that, because 2 rocket pods and 2 heavy bolters is quite a lot of firepower, especially as it has the roving gunship, so it hits on like 4s as well, which is pretty cool. But as in terms of like pure fire output, it doesn't compete with the Vulture, so it'll be interesting. So it's not a good choice unless you are taking this more, I'm going to fly in with my Valkyrie and then chop everybody out over the other side of the board. I'm looking forward to testing it out with you guys for like how that kind of plays out, because it's a very aggressive style of play, like getting a flyer really close into your opponent with the intention of like you're prepared for getting assaulted. Which when you're dropping scions, there's only a handful of them coming out, so usually you'll just shoot them because they've only got flat, but they do have carapace armor, so they're a bit more survivable than your regular guardsmen. So it'll be interesting to see. I'd very much like to try that stuff against Tim and his Tyranids to see how that works.
I do think as well, though, if you did have the kind of like las cannons or like anti-tank options that do high damage, I think there is always the thing that if someone's going to, I don't know, charge you with like a character that's quite a combat creature for some reason, assuming that you can overwatch the thing in the first instance, but yeah, something like that, if you had the las cannon and the missiles, because you're hitting on 4s, that could be quite a deterrent as well, because all of a sudden people might be like, I'm going to throw this guy at you, and it's like, cool, I'm going to shoot you with a las cannon hitting on 4s, and then these missiles hitting on 4s, and then it's like serious damage. So I actually think circumstantially it might be better to gear it up that way.
Well, it's interesting that you can only take it with a Valkyrie, and you don't give the option for taking the Vendetta. And I'm wondering if that's because in 8th edition, Vendettas became sort of a Forge World unit rather than a Games Workshop unit. And that's just, I think, because the upgrade kit is a Forge World kit, and that's the only way to get it, really. And it's a bit of a shame, and this is the general problem with these specialist attachments, is they completely ignore Forge World models completely. So, I'll talk about it in my section about the Krieg stuff, or even with your Elysians, like this drop force detachment would be kind of great for Elysians to take, but you can't, so you've got to sort of proxy your models to be Tempestus Scions instead. That's the only downside of these detachments. Otherwise, they're pretty good.
Yeah, I think that Dan actually made a really good point as well about the bigger stuff, like against like Nurgle demons, for example, just drop down in front of a Demon Prince or a Great Unclean One. It's like, okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to charge these guys with plasma guns? Because that's normally how you'd kill it, but you're going to get shot a lot if you try and do that. It's going to add some real tactical flexibility there that I'm actually really more excited to try out. But yeah, you're also right, but it's slightly annoying with this kind of stuff that it doesn't impact Krieg or Elysians. I mean, you've got the Kriegs, you're still getting some love. My guys just completely discontinued. So I'm working out the best I can to make them work. But yeah, but the Vendetta just isn't very good these days. I think because with las cannons, the cost of las cannons and the ballistic skill of guard, it's just not worth it. Even if they did give it the rule, I wouldn't think it would have been worth it for this, because you don't want to put you don't want las cannon. If you're taking the las cannon variety, you don't need to be close. You can fly around, and I think I mentioned when we're going up to the GT, if you're talking about las cannons, you're better off taking a bunch of Tauruses or the Taurus Venators rather than a Valkyrie, because you get more flexibility and an invulnerable save, which is pretty nice. One final thing I'll just actually mention, on the Tempestus drop forces, you do get access to a new heirloom, which means the bearer, if it's targeted by psychic power, can nullify on a 2+, which could be pretty cool. If you are going up, if you're making it your warlord, you're jumping. You would make it the warlord if you wanted to give him that, but you're dropping straight in front of the enemy, and it's like, okay, use your psychic nonsense on him, but it's going to be nullified on a 2+. That's kind of cool. One other thing from the book that I'd like to give a quick shout out to is the Emperor's Blade Assault Company, which which isn't usually what I'd be looking into, because it's not Elysian drop troops, but it does have something really cool that I think I'd like to. That makes me really excited to find a way to try out that, especially some of my other guard stuff that I've got. I could paint up or dig out of storage. Is that it gives you the ability? There's one specific stratagem it gives you, which is rapid redeploy, which is that you can disembark a unit at the end of the movement phase for 1 CP, which I think is going to be very cool, because it basically makes your chimeras have almost the equivalent of the grav shoot insertion from the Valkyrie. So you can just charge your full tilt, full speed your chimeras across the board, and then disembark. So your plasma gun squads or your Ogryns on Borgrins, and then charge straight from there. I think that's really cool.
I think you can charge afterwards, because it says that unit cannot move further. It says in this phase. So yeah, it just means
you disembark at the end of the movement phase. True. So you can take your chimera. Your chimeras go up, and then one unit gets out. It's specifically disembark one unit, so I'm assuming you can't play. So you're going to do it once in the turn, but that could mean you can get out a big squad of Borgrins out of a chimera, and then charge out. It also gives you some other cool little bonuses, especially if you've got like a tank heavy, like a troop transport heavy list, which is that you get the mechanized fire support, which the same thing we were just talking about with the Valkyrie on the Tempesters, that applies to all the vehicles which it applies to, so chimeras and Tauruxes. If the squad gets out, say the plasma gun squad gets out and shoots, and then they get charged, that chimera or Taurux can provide fire support on 4+ for Overwatch, which is really cool. But also something that's really, really cool, and I'm glad to see a version of it in a really good way to use with the Imperial Guard, is Mechanized Commander, which means you can put your Warlord in a Chimera, and he counts as having a Voxcaster. So he can, from 18 inches from that Chimera, your Warlord can issue orders to Guard units, and that's really cool. So the Emperor's Blade Assault Company is, I've got a load of old regular Guard, my Roughnecks, that I might dig out and put together an Emperor's Blade Assault Company with, because there's some cool chimeras and just regular squad stuff that you can do that looks really cool.
That's cool. Okay, next up, let's talk to Joe. Are you still there, Joe?
I'm still here. So I was shuffling through papers trying to find all the pages.
Which ones are you going to talk about?
So I'm going to choose... so the first one, I'm going to talk about the Crimson Fist's Liberator Strike Force, because it's something I'm kind of interested in. And that I kind of think, Crimson Fists have all of a sudden come out of left field at the moment, and they've just got a whole bunch of love from this book and White Dwarf. I kind of think they actually can make Space Marine, like bog standard Space Marines, quite efficient. So the Crimson Fists Liberator Strike Force basically is you from the detachment you pick a Primaris characters, Intercessor squads, Reaver squads, Hellblaster squads, and they all get the Liberator Strike Force keyword. The Warlord trait for the detachment is re-roll to hit rolls of 1 for friendly Liberator Strike Force units within 9 inches of your Warlord. So it means that you don't have to take a captain. You can take a librarian, and then he can be a dual role character, which is quite good. And the bubble is a lot bigger.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then you get a relic, which is model of a bolt pistol only, a 12-inch range, pistol 2, strength 5, -1, 2 damage. It's quite funky. Each time an attack made with this weapon hits, you can immediately make 1 additional hit roll against that target using the same weapon. These bonus hits don't themselves generate further ones. So basically it's pistol 3, 2 damage, heavy bolter.
Well, it's potentially pistol 4, surely.
So each time you... so potentially pistol 4.
Which is alright. I mean, for 2 damage as well. And -1 AP and strength 5. It's alright by the standards of a pistol.
It's a good... Like, if you think about what's popular in the meta, as it were, at the moment, it's a lot of 2-wound models, like bikes or orcs. You've got the knobs. Other Space Marines, this is going to kill Primaris Marines. So you could, on a very good roll, you could potentially kill 4 out of 5 Primaris Marines.
I mean, that would be an exceptional roll right there.
That would be an exceptional roll, but yeah, like a lieutenant who's hitting on 2s with his bolt pistol, re-rolling 1s, and then wounding on 3s, re-rolling 1s. He's got the best chances, really.
Why would a lieutenant be re-rolling 1s to hit, Joe?
Because if you make him your warlord...
Oh, I see. Well, there we are. Very good, very good.
Yeah. And actually, he's probably the best option then. So don't take the librarian, take a cheap Primaris lieutenant, and you run him next to a whole load of Hellblasters.
Yeah, true.
And then you get the 2 stratagems. So Heroes of Rin's World, pick a liberated strike force unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, each time you roll an unmodified hit roll of a 6 for an attack made by that unit's range weapons, that attack inflicts 2 hits instead of 1. So you're looking at maybe rapid firing Hellblasters with exploding 6s.
Yeah, so you don't have to... It's a bit weird because you could overcharge them and you get reroll 1s to hit. So
yeah.
That's... I mean, for 1 CP, it's a guaranteed safe way of using them, but probably not the most efficient when you could overcharge them, assuming you're comboing them with your Warlord, though.
Yeah.
But if you overcharge them, you still get 2 hits. So it's not 2 damage, it's 2 hits.
Oh, 2 hits, sorry. Oh, okay.
So that is even better.
So you could do both.
Yeah.
Yep.
Overcharge and do 2 hits. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's actually quite good.
Yeah,
does it affect aggressors as well?
No.
No, they don't have aggressors in their list of available options.
And then you've got the other one is Paragons of Dawn, which is use this stratagem at the end of an enemy shooting phase. Pick a liberated strike force unit from your army that is targeted by 1 or more attacks this phase. That unit can immediately shoot as if it were the shooting phase.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah. And I think, like Dan's talked about with the Cheaty Elder,
Yanari.
the Yanari, being able to do something in your opponent's phase is super powerful.
Yeah, and for 1 CP, that's pretty good. I guess you've just got to make sure that unit survives, because if your opponent knows it, they might go, okay, I'm just going to try and kill it.
Yeah, I suppose the incentive there for your opponent is to know that they're basically, if they whatever they're going after, they need to focus on stuff. But that itself creates interesting strategies, because actually you start to understand that your opponent has no other option but to delete your unit or continue to fire upon it until it gets to a certain strength, so as they're not so worried about it. So it is tactically interesting, I suppose.
Yeah. And some opponents might have a dedicated unit that they want to charge in, but that unit itself won't be able to deal with your whole unit of Hellblasters, for instance, or Intercessors, and they're like, oh, I need to soften this unit up, so then I've got that guaranteed kill. So they shoot at you, they kill 1 or 2, 1.5, and they go, and then you go, cool, I'm going to shoot you now with no negatives to shoot, and then kill a few off, and that means that if you charge me again, I get to overwatch you again. Which means that your opponent's less likely to want to come in and hit you. Which makes them pretty solid, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like it.
I think my issue is with Crimson Fists as a kind of archetype, or not an archetype, but as a faction, is their weird kind of middle ground status as an army where they're kind of like the Imperial. Well, they are like the Imperial Fist, but the thing is that they've kind of built this whole kind of lore around them as being this depleted, desperate, at the thick of the battle kind of army that's always basically defying death at every step. So it's always that iconic artwork of them fighting down to the last man, which is obviously, become part of their rule set, which is interesting. But from a gameplay perspective, it's always a weird rule set, because it's a high risk. It's difficult to say high risk, high reward. It's probably more accurate to say high risk, low reward set of strategies. Yeah. Although, if it goes well, it can go really well, but it's quite easy for your opponent to play around it. I don't know.
Well, my counter to that then would be the cheeky side note of the new Codex supplement in White Dwarf. They lose the Imperial Fist chapter attack of ignoring cover, and are then given the infantry, bikers, and dreadnoughts. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by this unit that target an enemy that contains at least twice as many models than their own. For purposes of ability, dreadnought units count as 5 models. And you think in the current game as it stands now, it's a lot of horde armies, a lot of poxwalkers, a lot of plague bearers, a lot of bloodletters, big orc units. So units of, like the standard units of Primaris Marines are 5s, which means that most often you're going to be hitting on 2s. So, and if you think, you add 1 to your hit rolls, combining that with the stratagem, no, I ignore that because it's unmodified to hit roll of a 6.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But then, in that scenario, though, you can just take loads of Centurion squads, can't you? Because 3-man Centurion squads, all with heavy bolters and stuff. That's what you want.
Yeah, well, no, I'd say take aggressors.
Oh, aggressors, yeah. Aggressors are also a very good option.
That's what I was thinking when I mentioned aggressors earlier.
Yeah, because aggressors not moving are putting out 12 shots plus 2d6. And there's only 3 of them, so the chances of having units of more than double are increased even more.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they're good to do a lot of work. And then they're given some extra warlord traits that you're never really going to use because unless you've got a captain. So So yeah, I think Crimson Fists are probably kind of, apart from Ultramarines, are going to start like coming to the forefront, I reckon. Yeah.
I disagree.
You disagree?
Yes.
Well,
You disagree all you want, but shall we move on to the? Because this would be a long one otherwise.
No. I wasn't aiming to say any more than just that.
Okay.
I just wanted to leave it there.
So, Joe, what's your other favourite thing from the book?
So my second favourite thing is the Cybernetica cohort for the Mechanicum, and out of the detachment, you get Tech Priest, Dominus, Tech Priest Engineers, Cybernetica Datasmiths, Catalan robots. And I really like this one because, in my opinion, it makes Castellan robots good as a standalone unit. And lots of people disagree with me, but at the moment, I think they're terrible because they're a unit that hits on 4s with their guns. And quite often they're a static unit that can't move because they've got heavy weapons. So the moment they move, they're hitting on 5s. And so many units in the game have -1s to hit. So most often, the moment that Castellan moves, is hitting on 6s. And it's crap. To make them good, you have to have them standing still. You have to have Belisarius cool behind them. And you have to dump about 5 or 6 command points a turn in to make them do stuff. But with this detachment, you pay 1 command point. You pick a unit of Castellan robots from your army that has the Aegis protocols in effect till the end of the turn. Treat heavy weapons that unit is armed with as assault weapons. So the Aegis protocol gives them +1 to their armor save and their invulnerable save. So they've got a 2-up save. They can move around and still hit on 4s.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then there's a Warlord trait for the detachment. When your Warlord used the Master of the Machine's ability to repair a unit of Castellan robots, they regain D6 wounds instead of D3, which is half decent. Friendly units of Cybernetica cohort Castellan robots can attempt to change their battle protocols at the start of each of your movement phases, and they're within 9. Their current rules are the moment you change them from the standard Aegis protocols, you can't change them back. So what most people do at the moment is they move their Castellan robots forwards, change to the double shoot one, and then they're stuck there and can't do anything.
Is this not the thing that you select the turn before? And then it... or am I thinking it wrong?
The Omnissiah, which you roll for at the start of the turn, that affects your whole army, and then Castellan robots have Aegis protocols. One is the Aegis, which gives them +1 to their armor and invulnerable saving throws. There's Conqueror, which is this unit cannot shoot, but it can fight twice in each fight phase. Or there's Protector, which allows them to double the number of shots it makes. And this one just basically makes them a viable unit that can move around the table and be effective.
You've missed out the really cool bit though. So that relic is a servo skull. So it's like a tiny little servo skull carrying the wafer cards around to the robots, which I think would make for a cool tiny model to represent your relic.
Yeah, I have got loads and loads of servo skulls knocking about, so I might have to convert one up.
Yeah, definitely.
Little thing to stand next to him. So yeah, those are my ideas.
Cool. And then I'll let Dan go next.
Oh, that's
So
very kind.
You're on a time limit, Lo. So quickly tell us what are your favourite things.
Okay, on the time limit, my favourite things from the Vigilus campaign book, first of all, is Primaris Marnius Calgar. Ooh! Not really, it's just a talking point, but let me get through it super quick. So Primaris Marnius Calgar is the new swanky version of Marnius Calgar. For those of you who aren't already aware, he is the chapter master of the Ultramarines, and he has a movement of 6, a weapon skill plus skill of 2+, a strength of 4, a toughness of 5, 8 wounds, 6 attacks, leadership 9, and a 2+ save. All relatively fine. If you were to take this guy as your warlord, you'll gain an additional 2 command points for the privilege. You can reroll failed morale tests for this unit, so he is They Shall Know No Fear, no surprise there. He has a 4+ invulnerable save. In addition, all damage suffered by Marnius Calgar is halved. And he is a chapter master, so things within 6 of him reroll everything. It's all shades of reasonable. He's armed with the Gauntlets of Ultramar, which is 24-inch range, rapid fire 2, strength 4, -1, 2 damage. And the Gauntlets of Ultramar in melee form are time 2 strength, -3, D3 damage, with no negatives to hit. So he is always hitting on 2s, re-rolling the 1s because he himself is a chapter master. He's also then joined by his Victrix Honor Guard, which are actually really, really good. I actually really like Victrix Honor Guard for what they are. One of the most interesting things about the Victrix Honor Guard is that they can tank wounds for Ultramarine characters. So I think Victrix Honor Guard would work absolutely fantastic with Roberte Gilliman. I think Roberte Gilliman getting even more survivability is no bad thing. So I would strongly argue the merits of taking some Victrix Honor Guard to stand alongside not Marnius Calgar, Roberte Gilliman. Obviously with Marnius Calgar it's fine, but they're much more awesome with Gilliman. The only thing that's interesting to me with this is that I don't necessarily think that Marnius Calgar Primaris is actually better than the rules that we have already for Marnius Calgar in Terminator Armor. So Marnius Calgar in Terminator Armor is 200 points. Primaris Marnius Calgar is 200 points. There's a 1 wound difference between them. So Terminator Marnius Calgar's got 7. This guy's got 8. He's got all the same special rules and war gear, except the Terminator one can teleport onto the battlefield within 9 of something. So I'm just universally of the opinion that if you're going to take Marnius Calgar, stick to his Terminator variant. It's still the best one. And that was really all there was to say about that. Any questions on Marnius Calgar or Victrix Honor Guard before I move on to my next thing?
Not really, other than it's interesting that they still allow people to take the old version, even though the narrative of him being able to be in that form is impossible. If that makes sense, unless you're doing a historical campaign.
Well, I think the thing is, isn't it, it's just the interpretation of the, non-linear narrative that is the game adaptation of 40k. Ultimately, you can be playing 3 weeks ago where he was still a regular Space Marine as opposed to dying on an operating table and coming back as new Marnius Calgar. I mean, Marnius Calgar is an interesting character because he should be good. There's lots of reasons why you could look at him and go, ooh, he's interesting, ooh, maybe, but he never quite stacks up. I mean, in all honesty, I don't really think any of the chapter masters are good, with maybe the exception of Azrael. I think Azrael is probably the only halfway decent chapter master, and then maybe Marnius Calgar is in that conversation in Terminator Armor if you're building a very specific army around his ability to teleport in and allow you to reroll hits. I actually think Marnius Calgar in Terminator Armor is interesting in the Indominus Crusade veteran intercessor units, because the idea of having rapid fire 2 bolt guns, so you're getting 4 shots at 15-inch range, having Marnius Calgar just drop in when you get out of a repulsor or when you get into that rapid fire range, and then allowing everything within 6 inches of him to reroll all misses becomes quite interesting. But
is that your next topic of conversation, the Indominus Crusaders?
No, not the Indominus Crusaders. So I'm going to go to my roots, obviously, and talk about an Elder formation, rather than worry about any of the other silly stuff. Miraculously, there it is. So most people would probably assume I talk about Wind Rider Host because people mostly are getting excited about Wind Rider Host because there are ways that it can be good. I don't think it's actually that good, really. There's a lot of weird elements to it that don't really match up, and I don't think you're ever going to see that much return on investment on it. Wind Rider jetbikes with scatter lasers are good enough. You don't really need to worry about this as an addition, but if you feel like using it, by all means do, but it's not really something that fills me with much excitement. But the Wraith Host is quite interesting, because the Wraith Host is all about making Wraith Knights more difficult to kill and more killy in combat. So essentially, what the Wraith Host is it's a Elder Craftworld detachment that includes Spirit Seers, Wraith Constructs, and Wraith and gives them the Wraith Host keyword. You get a Warlord trait, which is you can reroll charge range for friendly Wraith Host units that are within 6 of your Warlord. So if you've got a Wraith Knight and you want to charge him, and you fail that charge, you can re-roll it as long as you're within 6 of your Warlord, which would be a Spirit Seer in this instance. You've got a new Psychic power, which can also give your Wraith Knight a 2+ cover save, or not a 2+ cover save, it gives it cover, so your Wraith Knight can now go from a 3-up armor save to a 2-up armor save, which is no bad thing. You can also, for 2 CPs, give your Wraith Knight a 4+ invulnerable save, so you take the invulnerable save off your Spirit Seer and put it onto the Wraith Knight, making it even more survivable. And for 1 additional CP, you can make that Wraith Knight have 1 extra attack. So what's an interesting combo is you can use this formation and then use the Iand and Remnant of Glory on a Farseer, and the Remnant of Glory on the Spirit Seer, allows you to double the amount of attacks for Wraith Constructs within 6 of the of the Spirit Seer. So you can create these hilariously aggressive Wraith Host armies where you could just take loads of like relatively cheap now Wraith Knights, hurl them across the board with some Psyker support, get them stuck in, and do an absolute truckload of attacks with them, which I think could be quite funny. Is all. So there you go. Fighty Wraith Knights. Yay!
Brilliant.
I know.
Does that?
Succinct.
Boom. What was that, Joe?
I was going to say, does that mean that Wraith Blades are worth taking now?
Yes. No, but yeah, for the sake of this. It's, it's one of those things like... Because the thing is if you took a few Wraith Blade units, Prince Uriel, some Spirit Seers, some other stuff, you can you could make a really fighty Wraith army, which is a really nice change of pace for the Wraith Construct stuff, because it's all about hurling yourself in and just fighting like a crazy person, which is super fun for Wraiths, I think.
Yeah. So you could just take a bunch of Wave Serpents with Wraith Blades in and just bimble them up the table turn 1, and then turn 2 just have a massive charge.
Yeah, and also Wraith Knights are super interesting with this though as well, right? So that you can use their Stomp attack variant or their feet. So you can boost their attacks to 5 and then double it to 10, which means you can do 30 attacks with a Wraith Knight.
Jesus Christ.
Is this using the +1?
Yeah, so you boost his attacks to 5, use the relic, the Iand and relic, which doubles it to 10.
But it'd be, you double it to 8 and then you get +1, because it's always multiply and then pluses.
Well, because this changes your stat line.
Yeah, well, it depends. Maybe it's 9.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, yeah.
Maybe it's 9, maybe it's 10. Either way, you're either getting 26 attacks or you're getting 30 attacks. If you get 30 attacks, all of a sudden those Horde units don't look so terrifying because you're going, here you go, lads. Blah, 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 blah. So, against like Orcs, for example, of which there's going to be lots around, there is actually an argument now that you could probably rock up with 2 Wraith Knights and slap them about with this combination. But again, obviously, it's all... Yeah, here's what it is. There you go. Those are my opinions.
And then I'll go last, saving the best for last, of course.
Of course.
So I'm going to talk about a Krieg-esque one, which is the Emperor's Fist tank company. And this is the only one that appeals to me because it's the only one, as a Krieg player, I'm allowed to take. Because all the others have the wrong keywords, such as the Conclave Infantry one, and the drop one, and the even the artillery one. Like, I can't really take any of them because of the way the keywords are slightly different. However, the Emperor's Fist Tank Company one is all about Lehman Russes, and it's the Lehman Russ keyword, which even the Mars Alpha Lehman Russ tanks have. So that's fine. I can take this. As a sort of tank heavy company, the Warlord trait is I can re-roll hit rolls with my Warlord and friendly Lehman Russes within 6 inches when firing Overwatch. So that's kind of quite cool if I'm getting charged at and I've got some Punisher tanks or something. That's pretty cool. There's a Hammer of Sunderance, which is the relic, and it's basically a flat 3 damage battle cannon, which is kind of cool. And they've also clarified it that it still gets the grinding advance roll. So that's good. So it can fire twice. And then the two interesting things are the stratagems. The first one is unyielding advance. I can pick a unit. I can fire the turret twice, as described in the grinding advance rule, no matter how far I moved in the preceding movement phase.
Wow.
And the interesting thing is they clarified that in the FAQ that even is if you've advanced. So I could basically be doing 10 inches plus D6. And then obviously I won't be able to fire any of the other weapons. Like, for example, it's got Sponson on it because I've advanced, but I could still fire the main turret weapon twice, which is really good. And that's only 1 CP. So you could have a tank commander or someone going around and just always out of reach of your opponent charging you if you've got the room on the board.
Can he do that if he's falling back?
Interestingly, I would assume not, because the falling back rule is quite specific, whereas this is more about how far you've moved. Although you would have thought that would be the same with because you've advanced, you can't. Maybe.
Yeah, if they've extended it to advancing, I would have been interested to hear if they had actually addressed it as something that could occur when you fall back, because...
Well, that would be good. That would be good.
Really good. I mean, that's something that tanks desperately need, man. They should be able to fall back and shoot. It's crazy that they can't.
I know. That's one of my bugbears about tanks.
I imagine this formation and we'll see a lot of use for the Loyal 32. So people are going to start just taking 3 squads of guard
plus a
and
Lehman Russ.
and then a Lehman Russ and then a Corvo's Aquila guy, pay the extra command point and get the second relic to get that battle cannon, because that battle cannon is terrifying. So a tank commander shooting twice with a damage-free strength-8 gun is hideous.
Yeah, it's pretty good for sure. And then the other interesting stratagem is still phalanx. So basically, in my charge phase, I can pick an enemy unit, and any of the Emperor's Fist tanks which finishes its charge move within an inch, so basically I've charged in completely, on a roll of a d6 on a 4-up, I can cause d3 mortal wounds. So that's pretty good if a unit that is basically near your Lehman Russes and you're probably going to get charged in your next turn, you can effectively do a counter charge. And basically, if you've got 2 or 3 Lehman Russes, you could probably get a couple of decent mortal wounds off and maybe finish it off. I mean, it's kind of cool, but I don't think it's that good. And it doesn't synergize very well with the unflinching resolve, which is your re-rolling your Overwatch. Because obviously, if you use still phalanx to charge into something and you don't kill it, you then lose the ability to do any kind of Overwatch. So, I mean, I don't think it's that good, but it's kind of interesting, and it'll be sort of fun to play, to see how it goes. Obviously, the more Lehman Russes you have, the better that ability is, because for 1 CP, and potentially you've got like 6 or 7 Lehman Russes, you could do a whole lot of mortal wounds. But again, it's only on a 4-up.
Even then, though, man, I mean, if you knew that, like, I don't know, a lot of the time now, like, Questa Mechanicus Imperial Knights often find themselves on 1 wound, but they pay the CP to allow them to operate at full capacity. So if you kind of had that 50-50 odd of charging one in and doing it in a oneer because it's got not a oneer, but it's got 1 wound left on it, all of a sudden it's just a nice thing to have in your back pocket if you need it, I suppose.
Well, yeah, there was so when I did a sort of test game for GT with Richard, one of his armigers was on 1 wound, and I charged like 2 tanks and a field officer into it to try and kill it off, and I didn't. But if I had this, then maybe I would have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the trick is remembering you've got the obscure extra rules when you play, because normally with these you probably build it around the whole shooting twice regardless how much I move thing, and then it'll probably be one of those moments where if you start using it, I guarantee one of these days you'll come around and go, oh, I couldn't get that last wound off. Did you do the mortal wound thing? Oh! One of those sort of moments, but who knows? Maybe it's not that hard to remember, but
yeah, I mean, I'd have almost preferred a rule which was a stratagem which was you could still fall back and shoot or something, rather than the still phalanx one. But or
an order.
Oh yeah, that would be good as well. I mean, who knows what they do in the future?
I think it's pretty cool though. It gives you. It changes the way you play as Lehman Russes, rather than like they're not just going to hang back and shoot.
Yeah, you can definitely be more aggressive with it.
Yeah, because you can just be in like turn 1, you're using unyielding advance to get in everyone's faces, and then the next turn you can, especially if you've got like a knight and you've got three of your Lehman Russes, you can just finish it off by charging into combat with it.
Yeah.
Provided that you do hit it. I mean, it's CP intensive, but it could be a really good way of finishing off big annoying units, because it's the way you pick a unit and then it's 1 CP and then every Lehman Russ that charges it gets the bonus.
Yeah,
so that's pretty cool.
So that is cool. And I mean, there was a couple of games, 1 game in my GT Heat where I was up against some knights, and I had 4 Lehman Russes, so that would have been really handy, because often he would charge me, I would survive, and then my tanks are sort of scattering around. But instead, if I could just charge right into that knight, and I've got 4 50-50 chances of doing DP mortal wounds, that's pretty good. Okay, anyway, let's move on. My last one is not an Imperial Guard one, it's an Orc one. It's a Stomper Mob, and it's basically applies only to Stompers, I believe, and you can even gain them a character keyword as well. So you can give your Stomper Mobs a Warlord trait. One of them is +1 to hit and wound rolls for the fight phase, and the other one's +1 to wound rolls for shooting attacks, which is both pretty good. So you can make them slightly better at shooting. You can give them a relic, which is a 5-up invuln save. There's a stomp stratagem, which is, I'm not even going to talk about it, because the thing I really want to talk about is the Stomper Porter stratagem. Now it costs 4 CPs, but it basically allows you to deep strike a Stomper, which I just think is fantastic. Even if it's just from the point of view of it just sort of keeps it alive for your first turn, so you can then drop it down in your turn too. Not to mention the fact that you can obviously deep strike it anywhere within 9 inches of your opponent. And that was kind of a cool fun thing I just wanted to highlight.
It's weird because I actually haven't even ever thought to read this one, but even then, so if you take the Warlord trait as a Gork one, add 1 to hit rolls and wound rolls, or if you take it as a Mork one, add 1 to wound rolls for shooting attacks made by your Warlord. That's really good.
Yeah,
for one of these things.
You can make your Stompers pretty decent. And yeah,
you can give them a 5+ invulnerable save, which I'm guessing they don't normally have, I guess.
I think you can give it maybe a 6. There is but then saying that, I don't know if that's a Forge World only thing. There's like a custom force field version of the Stomper, but I don't know if this sort of replaces it or makes it better. I'm not entirely sure.
It's really cool though. You don't see enough of the Stomper anymore. That was like Games Workshop's first foray into cool, like big models, wasn't it? And it doesn't really ever seem to feature anymore. It's all
because it went up massively in points.
It's like 800 points, isn't it?
but now we're down in the codex, so it's probably a bit more viable now.
Whatever happened to the Lord of Skulls, eh? Where'd he go? Poor old Lord of Skulls.
He was replaced by the Khitan.
Which was much better.
There's that 4-year-old version with legs.
I think that's the Khitan, Richie.
Yeah.
I know. I know. Some of us don't remember the fancy names. We just remember what it looks like.
Yeah. Maybe I'll buy myself one of those next. That'll be something fun to try and bring back. The Lord of Skulls. Ooh.
Make him competitive.
I don't think I can, but I'll try, damn it. Is he still 888 points exactly?
I don't know.
I imagine he got a bit of a points drop.
He was quite good in the early days because he was a demon, or he was you could warp time him and basically hoof him into your opponent's enemy lines super quick, and then be like, deal with that, and it really was very difficult. Anyway, there you go. Sorry.
Well, that's it. So let's just wrap up this round, and then next up we'll be talking about our favourite things of the year.
One thing's probably worth mentioning is that we are all prepared for the 4th of March, which is when the War Master arrives on Vigilus.
I think
because we're on like day 33. I just calculated of the 80-day countdown.
So it's coming.
That's assuming he actually turns up, though. You know, he could be trolling us all.
Yeah.
No, the Warhammer community team wouldn't do that.
Never. Anyway, shall we move on? Rich,
Yes.
seeing as you're here for only this segment, would you like to make the traditional transitional noise?
Sure.
Okay. In this section, we're going to be talking about our highlights and our favourite things of 2018, of days gone by. So we'll start with Phil. What was your favourite thing of 2018?
In terms of like product releases, it has to be Kill Team. That was quite a big release that came out. It was quite a new system, and we all got excited about it, and we pretty much all bought the box, and we all played it quite a bit. And then I got really invested, and I created my Apostles of Thalos, which is a sort of renegade militia team being played as Chaos with just the generic cultists. And I spent absolutely ages converting up all the models because I got really into it and doing like a deep backstory for all of them.
Out of all of us, you were the one that kind of went all in on that, really. I think a lot of us kind of used existing models, but you went out on a conversion spree.
Well, I've been wanting an excuse to do more conversions, and it's one of those things that I really enjoyed the most doing as a kid. But then since I've got back into the hobby, it was something I probably did the least. And I think that's partly because Krieg models aren't very conducive to converting very easily. They're quite, they're sort of monopose in a way, like all the arms plug in together with certain bodies, and they're all sort of pre-molded, so there's not a lot of conversion stuff you can do with the Krieg models, especially because they've got those kind of big greatcoats. Like, you can't really pose them or change much about them, with the exception of like an arm swap maybe. So it was also just as that happened, the Renegade Militia on Forge World were going to Last Chance to Buy, and I've always wanted some of them because I always liked the idea of doing a Siege of Vrax kind of campaign with both halves, both armies. So it was an excuse to just buy a couple of those basically, and just have like a unit of them, which I could then kit bash to my heart's content, and do a bunch of crazy stuff with them.
You're still running those as cultists, right? It's basically a Chaos Space Marine kill team you're still running, right?
Yeah, although I believe because of Blackstone Fortress, I think it might be Free Walls Online, so they've got the Renegade Guard or Traitor Guard as a kill team now, I think.
Oh, wow.
I think you're right on that front.
I've not looked at the rules, but it might be worth running them as that, as another option. And I did it in a way where I could, if I wanted to, run them as Astra Militarum, if I want to get things like the plasma guns in there, because some of the models that I've got have their special weapons that obviously cultists can't take. But I think my ultimate aim might be to actually run them as Gene Stealer Colt, because the Gene Stealer Colt models, I think, like the Neophytes, obviously will have auto guns, so the weapon loadouts are actually very similar. And then I've got the Renegade Enforcers who have like these lash whips and sort of power mauls, and it's like I could run those not as the aberrants, but I think hybrids, the ones that have the metamorphosis, like the power, not power claws, but the grabby claws that the Tyranid models have. So I could potentially sort of proxy them as Gene Stealer Colt, and those rules I think are a bit more conducive to how I'd like to play them, whereas the cultists are a bit limited.
And you're still committed to having a cultist as your kill team leader as well, aren't you?
Yeah, because you've got to.
Well, yep. But you've got like Space Marines in there, durable Space Marines, and you're making your kill team leader a little dude with a whip, isn't he?
He's just got he's the Renegade Militia Company Commander who's got a chainsaw for a hand.
And hasn't he got a plasma pistol as well?
Yeah, you can run it as a plasma pistol or a auto gun, I believe.
Because what you could do...
Or it is a plasma pistol, but I'm just proxying it as a auto gun, I think.
Now I think about it, you could actually run him as the Imperial Guard Commissar from the Commander rules. Because the Imperial Guard Commissar has a plasma pistol and I think a power sword. But yeah, do that.
That's cool. Yeah, because Commander's come out, but I've not actually got that yet, which I'd quite like to.
I own it. It's still in its cellophane downstairs.
Oh, right.
I am a dedicated buyer of the hobby, but I don't seem to use it much.
I think that's the only sort of downside. So I've played Kill Team quite a bit, but probably still not as much as most people who are sort of playing it properly. And it's like I didn't get Rogue Trader, even though I absolutely wanted to, because I couldn't really justify the cost and the space that it will take up within my tiny shed that I have. And it's like I still haven't played Kill Team enough to justify then going on to a sort of a mini subsystem within Kill Team. And it's like Commander's come out and it's like I really want to play that, but I still haven't got around to that. And then obviously the one that's coming soon, which is the match play version, that one looks cool and actually is one I might get if I was to get any of them, because it's got sort of specific rules for playing indoors in small confined spaces. So it'd be interesting to see how much that differs from the rules that they got for doing something similar within the Rogue Trader. So I might get that one.
That's Kill Team Arena, isn't it? And that's that's got specific match play and balancing rules in it. I think that's what a lot of people have complained about who try and play Kill Team competitively, that it doesn't balance very well.
It's weird because I thought that's what it was sort of designed for in the first place. So it's interesting that it's not. But I guess it's predominantly using points and rules straight out of 40k without really much change. So I can understand why it doesn't necessarily balance down to that granular level.
I think one of its biggest issues as well is the level of kind of customization within the game system, or kind of the scalability of it, because they built a rule set that kind of works for not 2 to 4 players, and I think that's always an interesting task. So I imagine the Arena rule set will be exclusively based around the 2-player relationship, as it were. Or have they said if that's going to be still up to 4 players?
I think you can. I think it did say 2 to 4.
Oh wow! Okay.
On the Arena stuff, it would be interesting because obviously they've only previewed one board. But I assume it's double-sided, so it'd be interesting to see what the flip side will be.
I imagine it's going to be all scaled around everyone fighting on the same level. So by removing multiple levels, it takes away like the overpoweredness of, say, like a Space Marine with a heavy bolter or a Scout with a heavy bolter who can do a lot of damage to a whole army.
Yeah, and the map that they previewed on that Arena is like, it's such a confined space with like kind of tiny corridors and rooms that anything long range is only really going to be useful for like a turn before something charges you in close combat potentially. It's much more like sort of Necromunda's Zone Mortalis style, where you're fighting room to room. There's no real long firing lanes for you to shoot down.
Well, I think we just need to, at some point, get together and play some more Kill Team. We should go up to Nottingham again and play with Sean and his fantastic-looking, whatever they're called, from Rogue Trader. Those models he's painted from that is ridiculous.
Oh, the Galapox field, not Galapox field, but the Galapox, yeah.
His ability to churn out very high-quality paint jobs on these models of his is quite incredible. I'm looking forward to seeing.
It puts us all to shame.
Well, I don't know if he puts you to shame, Phil. You have a different standard.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm really good at painting tanks. He's really good at painting pretty much anything.
He's good at painting everything else. There we are. Maybe we should get Sean on here sometime. I think he was talking about it once and saying how he never would want to, but, maybe we could persuade him.
We'll force him to it, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Get him to talk about painting stuff. I'm sure he'd love that.
Cool. So, what was your personal highlight of last year? What are you most proud of? What you've done?
There's probably a few things that I could pick, but I think the highlight has to be getting to go to No Retreat. I want to say 6. No Retreat 6 in Gibraltar, and getting to go there and play with a bunch of really nice people on some really awesome tables. And I got it's called the SN Award, which was like a sort of best army type award that they get to nominate 4 people, and the standard was really high. So that was really cool. So it was like a nice little cherry on the top of getting to go there, but also to win something as well.
Wow.
That's a good award to get, really, because like being chosen to get there is difficult in itself, because they look at like how well your army's painted, and they want like the best of the best, really, don't they? And then so to then be told you're the best out of those is pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, best of 4. But it was really like nice honour, and because the award is sort of chosen by the SM team, there is a normal best army award which is voted on by everyone else, like all the players. But the SM one's actually done by the team themselves, and so that was really nice to get that.
Do you think that No Retreat is some kind of like real world adaptation of what were they called now? The brotherhoods in the Lunar Wolves created by Eidolon to seed some sort of internal conflict and ultimately overthrow Games Workshop from the inside? Is that what it is? It's like a secret society within the world of wargaming.
A lodge.
The Lodge, that was it. Yeah, God, it sort of sounds like that. Did you get a medallion for turning up? And should you actually say, "I do not know" or whatever? What do they say when they're asked about it? Just like, "I wouldn't know about that."
The first one about Fight Club.
Yeah. Don't talk about the Lodge. Don't talk about
I would say no, but at the same time, there's like an alumni No Retreat WhatsApp group chat that you get.
Are you allowed to draw attention to that?
I'm sure you can. So basically, it's just for everyone who's been to all the events to chat to each other. Because when you get invited, you get added to a WhatsApp group for all the people going to that event. So you can basically pre-chat and get to know people that you're going to meet up with, and they really encourage you to post up sort of your work in progress photos for stuff that you're going to take to the event, so everyone can get excited about seeing the models and the armies and stuff like that. And then, you get the after one, which is where everyone gets joined into that one. So they basically close down that WhatsApp chat, and you get thrown into the big boys group chat, which is really interesting because obviously you've got some big names in there, but it's really good for information. They obviously do lots of rules, debates, and chats in there as well, which is always quite interesting, getting other people's points of view who play sort of more the tournament scene, I think, as well. And obviously, because when we play, we have a very limited view of our interpretation of rules, so it's interesting to see other people's as well. So so that is a little bit like the Lodge, I guess.
There you go. It sounds like the work of word bearers to me, mate. That sounds heresy ensues.
Yep, but I think it's definitely something you guys should apply for the next one, which I guess will be No Retreat 9. Because it'd
That's
be good.
already gone up, isn't it?
No, so No Retreat. Oh no, No Retreat 8 is the one that the invites are out for now, I think. And then the next one will be 9, but I think they're only doing one a year now, so you're looking at 2020 basically.
Jeez.
Give you a chance to save up, Joe.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think I'll have to take my girlfriend on holiday before then, because if I turn around to her and say, like, by the way, I'm going out of the country, but you're not coming with me.
Oh no, take her with you. That's what I did with my girlfriend.
I think that'd be even worse. It's like our first holiday abroad, and I'm going to a Warhammer tournament.
Well, if you go like a few days earlier, you can sort of have some alone time, do the sightseeing, and then you can just leave her to do her own thing for a few days.
You see the monkeys.
Yeah, exactly. Go to the top, get tapped by monkeys.
There you go. I think, let's be honest with ourselves, Joe. She completely expects that to happen. She knows that the first time she goes away abroad with you anywhere, there's got to be some kind of twist. She'll be waiting all the time. She'll be like, and there's Warhammer when? Ah, yes, of course. As suspected. There you go.
A personal collector of Games Workshop stores. You got to find the Games Workshop store everywhere you go. It's now become a game as part of my life.
There you go. There you go. What a treat. You do live a full and exciting life, Joe.
Yes. Like, everyone does. I think all hobbyists can agree that, like, if it ever comes to that point in your life where you're going on a family holiday, or especially if you're moving house, the first thing you do is you type in the name of that town and Games Workshop. And you go Google, find me Games Workshop.
Tell me where it is. Do you not go to the store finder function on the Games Workshop website?
No,
too much work. No. There you go. Where's the sign? So, Phil, are you going back to No Retreat this year, 2019?
I do know. I don't know, because the invites have just gone out, so I'm sort of waiting. So,
okay. So the invites have gone out, and you haven't had one yet.
Yeah, so it's either mine's still
Lost
coming,
in the post,
or lost in the post, or I think more likely I'm just not going, which is fine. Because I think there's some other sort of Deathcore Krieg players who I know have applied that are probably a bit more deserving than me. So
should have got your Tyranids fitted up.
Well, this is the thing. So I did sort of in my application put in, here are some Tyranids, but the chance of me getting them painted's pretty slim. So if maybe this year I should just, one of the things I said I want to do is concentrate on painting up my Tyranids. So I've got a second army, and then, for the next one I can actually just apply with those instead.
Well, hang on a second. Weren't we just talking about you painting your kill team before this?
Well, I mean, but kill team's only like, 10 to 15 men.
Oh, yeah. So what's that going to take you? 3 months?
Yeah, exactly. But what I'd like to do with those guys is potentially do a Blanche Itsu style of painting, which is a bit messier, and I don't know if it's any quicker, but it should be a bit more free-flowing and allow me to, not paint it to, say, like a sort of heavy metal sort of style of painting, and do it a bit different.
I really like Blanche Itsu painting, but it always reminds me of the same color palette that they use for Call of Duty games, just different browns.
Well, yeah, it's got a distinct look of tones, and they use like lots of yellows and reds and sort of greys and blacks, and brown especially, actually. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And we might as well move on to Dan. What was your favourite thing of the year gone by?
Did you forget that it was 2018 last year?
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm still writing 2018 on everything I do at work.
Yeah, but yet when you all you had to do was say 2018, you couldn't figure it out.
God, no, I have to, when we get posting at work, we get a lot of posting every day.
This is an exciting story. Tell me more. Post comes into your job, right?
Comes into my job and I open it up and I go for it all and make sure
you work in
everything's
a
there.
post office, Joe?
No, I work in a game store.
Oh, right, okay, there we go.
And,
Right,
and,
good.
and I open up the box of all the miniatures, and I type it off, and then I go to the computer, and I type in received and opened, and then I put the date in and my initials, and I'm still putting 2018 every single time. I open like 50 boxes a day, and then, yeah.
There's an easy way to explain why that's happening, Joe.
Yeah.
I think you know the answer. Anyway, there you go. Sorry, I don't mean to be cruel, Joe. It's all part of the bants, isn't it? Oh, the bants.
Anyway, tell me, what did you do in 2018?
Well, I did many things in 2018, but the things that relate to Warhammer 40,000, I suppose I'll follow Phil's approach and start by talking about the release that I thought was most exciting for me from a Warhammer 40,000 perspective in 2018. And bizarrely, I think for me, really, it was only towards the end of the year when we started seeing the campaign books coming through in the form of Vigilus that I felt like something significant sort of happened. Like Phil, I really enjoyed Kill Team. I quite enjoyed the fact that Warhammer Quest exists within the 40k universe, which was super interesting, but I didn't play it, and I'm not super interested in it because I invested quite a lot of money in the Silver Tower old Warhammer Quest system with shadows over hammer, what's it called, stuff. And yeah, so I wasn't super keen to try and get into another Warhammer Quest system when I've already got a collection gathering dust. I mean, to quote other game systems, I once upon a time spent a lot of money on Kingdom Death Monster and have never played it. I very, very rarely play Warhammer Quest. I bought Dungeon Saga back in the day from Mantic Games and never played that really extensively either. So what I've discovered is that I only have so much time, so I left that one on the shelf. But I bet I would like it if I got around to playing it, but I probably won't, so that was a relatively insignificant bit. So yeah, really, Vigilus, which we're going to talk about in a good amount of detail. In fact, sorry, I forget the fact that I'm supposed to pretend that we haven't, that we've recorded that already. We've already talked about Vigilus in a great amount of detail, so so I should maybe make up something else that happened. I guess Dark Elder, Drakari, that was interesting, wasn't it? That sort of changed things up in a big way when they came along and went, look, free CPs and we can muck up your stratagems. That was a heck of a shift in the sands, wasn't it? You remember the Drakari when they came out?
Yeah,
that was exciting.
They threw a rather large spanner in the works when they came out, and I remember like the big rule, which they didn't really talk about, that Agents of Vec. They spoke about the fact that Drakari can take four patrols, right, and that'll get you like 6 command points. And everyone went absolutely mental over that. They're like, that's unfair, that's crazy. Like, this is just going to break the game. Never seen anyone run 4 patrols. Or even 3 patrols of Dark Elder. Because they're super cheap. You can just run a bunch of battalions.
It's true. I mean, again, it's one of those fantastic instances, isn't it, where they kind of went, look, we've come up with some rules that are fluffy and fun and interesting that fit the army. And it's like, cool, yeah, you have. Why? Just because, it's like when the Dark Angel book came out and they went, if you've got a Space Wolf in your army, your stuff gets worse. And it was like, right, cool. And that's a CP, is it?
Yeah.
Great. Like, yeah, sure, I'll totally do that. It's just madness, isn't it, when they kind of come up with that stuff. But the thing is, I like it because it adds a bit of flavour to the narratives and the story. I suppose actually I thought of something actually other than talking about Drakari stuff. I like that they brought back the Noise Marine. I think that's a promising sign for future things to come. I'm really excited about eventually seeing updated Emperor's Children / Slaanesh demons. So the fact that they did a re-release of the classic Noise Marine got a thumbs up for me. So that was good. Noise Marine, yay!
He was a cool boy.
It's true. I started assembling him. Or rather, I started and concluded assembling him the other day, so he looks really nice. I won't ever paint him, but there he is, built. My brother-in-law was nice enough to buy it for me as a Christmas gift because I wouldn't have bought it for myself, even though I said it was really cool. It had no place in my collection until it did. It found itself there, and now I own that, so that's cool. Yeah, I already know what you're going to talk about when it gets around to you, Joe, so I'm not going to steal the thunder when you want to start talking about your thing. But I would have talked about that as well, but we'll leave that on the shelf for now. Whatever that could be. Wait and see. So yeah, you know, I mean, last year from my side of things, from a releases perspective, Kill Team was super awesome, but, you know, again, didn't hugely get into it. It was alright. I just really doubled down on 40k. I love the fact that loads of codexes came out. That was super awesome. Really excited about the Vigilus stuff that's coming, and that all seems really exciting. And yeah, you know, just looking forward to more of the same this year. You know, I just think it was a generally great year for playing games, and
you kind of had a bit of a purge, didn't you, last year? And it was like last year was like a proper competitive year, lots of events, lots of doing stuff. And I think you kind of just concentrated very hard on your Elder, and like the codexes that got released kind of made your other armies a bit lackluster. So I think they kind of just fell by the wayside, and then you eventually just got rid of them.
That is true. That is true. Although I am continuing to work on things. I bought a bunch of Space Marine Hero, normal Space Marine miniatures. So I got 2 full tactical squads of the Space Marine Heroes now. And I built a whole army around Ultramarines with Rhinos and Land Raiders and old Terminator Marnie as Calgar and old Space Marine stuff. Because I was like, oh, that'd be fun, won't it? Just to run a terrible Space Marine army. I guess that's what I'm sort of trying to do more and more at the moment, is create armies that I kind of know aren't great but could be fun to play. I guess in a way I might even be considering looking at those narrative missions and things of that nature this year, but we'll see. I mean, we can talk about that when we start talking about 2019 predictions and so on. Or not that that's a prediction for the broader hobby, but more my own personal experience, I guess.
Well, you know, I was going to say, like, because we do so much competitive gameplay, you end up forgetting that this is a hobby that you do for fun, and sometimes in the evening you don't want to have that hard thinking competitive game. So that's where kind of narrative comes in. You can just chill and just chat and just muck around.
Well, strangely, I don't find that I have to think that hard when I play the armies that I've created. I've done all the thinking beforehand, and then I just put them down and go, oh, look, I won. That's the ridiculous thing about how it goes at the moment. I'm going to be, on Sunday, I'm going to be playing a lad called Andy in the Games Workshop Salisbury store. I'm going to be playing against Andy, and he's going, oh, I'm thinking of going to tournaments, and he put like a general kind of message out going, oh, we want to play against a competitive army list in a sort of, you know, a tournament list. And I was like, oh, sure, I'll turn up and play you if that's cool. And then he sort of told me what's in the army list, and I was like, oh, probably should tone that down a little bit. He's like, no, just bring the heat. I was like, all right, cool. That'll be a quick game, but, you know, I'll enjoy playing him. He's a nice lad, so that'll be good. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's good. I think, yeah, competitive games were my focus last year for sure. You know, and it's been that journey in the sense of getting better and better at that. But I think this year, once you've achieved certain levels of, like, I've consistently done well. I mean, without wanting to sound super braggy, and I apologise to the guy in the comments who I think was called Alex. There was a lad in the comments called Alex who correctly pointed me out on being too arrogant when I was talking about having one GT Heat free. So I'm going to try my utmost best.
Dan, you arrogant? No, surely not.
I know, right? I was just like, thing is, he had a point because I listened back to it. Oh, God, really, yeah, he is right. I really need to tone this down. But then at the same time, I am what I am, you know. I was happy. I won. But, where was I going with this? I started talking about me being arrogant. There was a thing.
You did really well. You're brilliant.
Exactly. Aren't I great? But the point is yeah, you know, I'm starting to think just like, you know, trying to, you know, once you win sort of events and you find your place, it's a I don't know. I don't feel at the moment. I don't feel the pressure of trying to be super good at the game. I actually kind of want to get back to playing it for fun, which is a journey I'm on to try and get myself back to playing more fun, entertaining hobbies. Huh?
It's the long way of you going about, like, saying I need to downplay it for the plebs of the group.
No, that's not it at all. Because the thing is, right, when me and Phil play together, I love playing games against Phil. It's super fun. But it's not super fun when I play him with my Elder Army, because we're not playing a game. He's just turned up and we chat for an hour, and then he goes, oh, everything's dead. I'm like, there you go, what a game. So, it's more about actually the purity of the hobby and the actual enjoyment of sitting down or standing up and playing a game of 40k with your mates. And that's what I want to build some army lists around. I don't want to keep having to sort of be like, oh, sorry, I know it's not much fun, is it? Because it isn't. And that's not really what I'm going for. So that's that. Although I worked out as well, fun story, I worked out that in tournament play, I am currently on a 20-game undefeated streak in tournaments. Hey?
Pretty good.
20 games of undefeated tournament performance, boys. Yeah! And I am really, really smart as well. That's for you, Alex.
Yeah.
Really smart.
The sadistic side of me kind of hopes that you get beaten by some spotty little kid with some really shonky army.
Well, exactly. I'll turn up and play Andy on Sunday, and he'll table me in a one, and I'll be, what? Although that wouldn't have been in a tournament. That would have been, that's playtesting. That's a different scenario. Richie beat my army the other week, where we have already heard from Richie talking about Vigilus. See, look at that continuity. I'm on it. definitely that has happened. Hopefully he turns up, otherwise that's going to sound ridiculous. But yeah, Richie's army absolutely kicked the snot out of my army the other week. So yeah, I mean, it's very easily beatable if you've got the army to do it. And as it turns out, hordes of Elysians dropping out of the sky with overheating plasma guns lays waste to Elder armies. Who would have known? Who would have known? There you go.
Yeah. And what was your personal highlight of last year then? What made you proud?
I mean, obviously, I have to say it because it's factually accurate that, winning Grand Tournament Heat 3 was cool. That was a nice moment for me. I won a few tournaments last year. Mostly came second, which is crazy because I always seem to lose on like kill points or whatever. One of the biggest problems with my army I found in like ITC settings or other sort of settings is that I would table my opponent super quick, but then because I table my opponent super quick, I didn't get enough secondary mission points, and then as a result, I kept coming second because I won all my games, but I didn't do as much VP stuff, so I needed to sort of go through the process of understanding that and toning that down a bit. Which is definitely something I've sort of evaluated. But that was good. But honestly, my highlight for me is doing this. I love this. This is great. It's been awesome to have people respond to the podcast. It's been awesome to get together with you guys on a bi-weekly basis and chat about the hobby. I really like the fact that it seems to be enjoyed by a good amount of people. I think it's great. I mean, this is something we've been talking about for years, and the fact that we're able to do it now is something I'm super proud of. So yeah, honestly, without wanting to sound crazy cliche, this here is my hobby highlight, that people around the world are listening to me talk about the hobby with my good buddies, and that's really cool. I think I imagine that's a highlight for all of us, right, to some extent.
Of course, yeah. It's been fun to do, and hopefully it will still continue to be fun and enjoyable until we get super old and die, I guess.
I like the optimism about super old and die as well. I don't know, man. I don't think I've got 10 years left in me, but I hope so. I mean, 10 years more of this. What a delight. But no, I mean, I think that's the cool thing about it, though, is like, I think I didn't really approach this with any kind of like pressure or kind of expectations. I wanted to just do what I do anyway, and find an excuse to get together and chat about the hobby with my pals, and it's been super fun. And I think that's the cool thing. It's like we're doing it because it's a laugh. I think we're all pretty much committed to continuing to produce this in 2019. I mean, obviously this is the 12th episode, so yeah, like I think I'm really optimistic that we'll produce, I don't know, how many weeks is it in a year? 52?
56, isn't it?
56? I think you're off your head, mate. It's 52.
I know.
You've exposed yourself there. But anyway,
a
number. But say it's 50.
It is 52.
There you go. See, everyone's right here. 52 weeks. So I mean, admittedly, we've missed like the opening 2 weeks or whatever. But if we get to You know, if there's 52 weeks a year, we could put out another, I don't know, 26 episodes. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? That'd be nice.
Yeah.
You know, by the end of this year, we'll be up to episode 38. Wouldn't that be a nice thing? So yeah, we'll see how that all goes. 38 episodes of all of this. Wouldn't that be a dream?
Pretty good.
Exactly. But yeah, that's it really for me, man. I mean, you know, obviously the winning tournament stuff was cool. You know, but this is good. How do you feel about it, Joe? You feeling jolly about your contributions to the internet?
Yeah, I'm confident. I've learnt a lot through doing it. I've still got a lot to learn in terms of like social media. I'm still terrible at putting stuff up.
If any one of you out there is following us on social media, the reason it's bad, if you think it's bad, it's pretty bad. But if you think it's bad, talk to Joe. It's Joe's fault.
Yeah. I need to learn more. Like, obviously, I came into this with no real like knowledge on podcasts or like Facebook. For me, is just an archiving system of cat memes and film trailers. That's it. That all it is really for me. I kind of only got into Instagram like a year ago, 2 years ago, to put like gym progress up. Of just like me looking miserable in a mirror.
Why did you never smile in those gym photos?
Because when you're up at 6 o'clock in the morning,
That's true.
you're nothing to be happy about. And then that all went away because of happiness and relationships and stuff. And you're just like,
do we want to get into this, Joe? Is this the forum to talk about your relationship?
Yeah, this is Joe's therapy session. No, you get into it anyway. So I got into Instagram for that, and then I'd say like June, July, I kind of got back into it again because I kind of thought, I need something to push myself on for like painting. So putting up like painting progress stuff. And I kind of took a leaf out of Phil's book, and I was like, I want to do what Phil's doing. He's doing a good job of that. Unfortunately, I just don't get to post up as often as I'd like. So when it comes to doing the social media for this thing, I'm like, bugger.
Well, there we go. That feels like a perfectly good segue to hear about what your Games Workshop for Warhammer 40,000 release highlight of 2018 was. What was that, Joe?
I gotta say Knights. Knights was my big thing. Until I kind of dabbled in Knights that got over the last few years, but their big Codex release, and there's Forgebane, when that came out with the little armatures. I was like, I've got to have these in my life, because I can't afford to buy something like a Warhound. And I was like, these are like mini Warhounds. They're like little scout titans that run around and mess stuff up. And I got those, and I really like the aspects of what a knight is, and they're like the whole household, and they're all like questoral high lords and rich snobs who are bored, just want to go out and just mess shit up and just be like, yeah.
I don't think they're necessarily rich snobs. I think their position as knights gives them a certain level of, luxury when they're not fighting to protect their worlds and so on.
Yeah. Well, they're kind of like the high. So like the knight pilots are like high lords and ladies, and they've got like a society rank, as it were. And then the little armiger pilots are there like serfs, or like cousins who don't hold as high a title, kind of thing.
Why do cousins not hold high titles?
So you've got like.
Were you trying to say squire and then you settled on cousin?
Well, no, because they are like other family members. So like, say one family's got all the money, and then their like slightly annoying brother who went off and had like an illegitimate child. They're like, well, his illegitimate child, he can't ride in a big knight, but he can rock around in this little thing, and and be done with it, kind of stuff.
So there you go. So all the knight armigers are the bastards.
Yeah, why not? I like that idea.
There you go. They're all Jon Snow.
They're all B company. You know, just doing about. And I really like it. And I got all the stuff. And I love painting knights. There's something quite therapeutic about like building the chassis of the knight. And what I do is I build and paint the base first, then put the leg part of the chassis and glue that on, painted, and then I paint each individual carapace piece of armor, and then glue that on, and then paint the next one and glue that on, and then paint it on and do the next one. So you have this knight slowly building up in front of you, and then you have that cool moment where you put on the last piece and it's complete, and they look great. And then like from doing those, that kind of pushed me into doing my Mechanicum stuff, purely because I was like, well, knights on their own suck, but they don't do very well, and everyone was doing the whole loyal 32 of running a guard battalion for the CPs, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be different and yet the same, and do Mechanicum. And Mechanicum give the knights natural buffs anyway, so that's fine.
Is it natural buffs? I thought you had to spend CPs to give them that.
You have to spend CPs for stratagems within the Mechanicum Codex, but apart from recycling command points, there's no real synergy between the two. Whereas Mechanicum, they can repair the knights, and then they can give the knights a knight canticles for a turn. So there's a little bit of synergy there, which I kind of prefer, really.
And the canticles are really good, aren't they?
Well, yeah, you can give a Castellan robot a cover save turn 1.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Not broken at all, is it?
Well, it's literally through that one stratagem is the only way a super heavy can get a cover save.
And and that's 1 CP, or is it 2?
1.
Yet, to give a regular vehicle a cover save turn 1 costs 2 CP, and
it's 2 CP for your entire army.
Oh, that's true. It doesn't affect super heavies, though. It was my point.
Yeah.
Now you've ruined it.
Yeah. That's 2 CPs for an entire guard armoured company. This is what we're talking about here, Phil.
Well, that's true.
1 CP for the knight. We'll ignore the fact that Shroud Psalm gives the entire army a cover save for free anyway, but we'll ignore that.
Can you actually give that to a Castellan knight, though? Because the knights within the Mechanicum book were the Questor Imperialis ones, which were based off the Knight Lance builds.
Codex is next to... Hang on. I've never actually used a Castellan, so I'm just lying through my teeth, but...
Well, exactly. I was just curious, because it's like, if it's a Questor Mechanicus knight, then you're probably fine. I was just curious about the wording.
I've just used Bogo Knights.
Well, exactly. Which in that case, it works fine. I was just curious about...
It might be one of those things where it's the generic keyword, or potentially it just got FAQ'd to include those ones. Because I believe they FAQ'd all the generic sort of knights, codex stratagems, and how the CP works. So they FAQ'd that to make the Forge World Knights included.
Okay.
But whether they've done that to make those knights or the Castellans and stuff work with the Admech book, I don't know.
So the exact wording of this stratagem is: use this stratagem at the start of any battle round before determining which canto of the Omnissiah will be in effect. Select a Questor Mechanicus unit from your army. So yeah, a Castellan can take it because they can become Questor Mechanicus.
Fair game.
Yeah. So I wasn't lying.
No, I did. I was just curious.
Yeah.
I was just curious because sometimes they're very specific in the wording, and then sometimes they're very vague.
Well, if you think about it, that's really good for a castellan because one of the canticles is re-roll ones for shooting.
So your harpoon could hit.
The harpoon has a potential of hitting. But as I used it on the Warden, with the Endless Fury, that's 14 shots hitting on 3s, re-rolling ones to hit, which is super useful.
That is super useful.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Good times. So, Joe, you like Imperial Knights, Renegade Knights, Knights in general, but what about 2018 made your little hobby face smile?
So my moment of the year, which was a very sought after moment, was for the last 4 years I've always wanted to get into my whole army into the cabinet of Warhammer World for an event. So at these events there's like 100 people and they select
114 in this instance, Joe.
114. So they pick 10, 12 armies for best painted, and then they put the whole army in, and that's chosen by the staff. That's not chosen by the people playing. And I've always wanted to get it. And this year I got in. I got nominated, and I got my certificate for that for my knights and my mechanicum. And that for me was like a huge moment of pride because for years I've been putting models in the cabinets for like the best unit, and anyone can do that. But I've never won it. But to actually be chosen to go in there after years of staff looking at my army, go, "Oh, that's really nice. That's amazing. I've never seen armies painted like that." But not getting to that level was quite big for me. And it's kind of driven me now to kind of like, I want to try and make a competitive army, air quotes, competitive army, paint it up enough and make it distinctive enough that it can go in again. Hopefully win it. I think the key for winning it is by being different to everyone else and running something that other people aren't running. And that's why I kind of chose Deathwatch this year, because Deathwatch is an army that has a lot of character, and you can like really personalize every single model. So I've used a lot of Forge World upgrade packs and stuff, and kind of gone that way. So yeah, so 2018, my big moment was recognition for something I've been trying to be doing for years, and
that was well deserved as well because your knights look really good.
I'm kind of.
It's strange as well because they all look awfully similar to some knights that I've acquired recently.
You've just bought so awfully clear. I've kind of put down the knights this year, and by putting them down, they've ended up in Dan's possession. But
I did always say that I was looking forward to owning that army.
So since I started my knights, the last 6 months, Dan's always jokingly said, "I can't wait to own that army." Because he ends up owning most of my armies. And I was like, "Nah, it never happened. I never sell him." And then 2 weeks ago, I was like, "Oh, I just want to buy some knights. I can't bother." I've had my journey with them. I can't paint those up really to be better to win the painting competition, so I've got to start fresh.
Oil washes, that's what you need.
Oil and washes, yeah. And battle damage, stuff like that. But I'd like to start with a fresh canvas. I'll probably come back full circle to knights again. But I wanted to try something else this year.
You can always buy them back if you want them at some point, mate. It's fine.
Obviously.
The door's always open.
But I was like, with Chapter Approved coming out, as a little segue from our chat, my Mechanicum army has dropped hugely in points, and it's now possible to run a brigade in 1750. So that's kind of like another side project goal. If I can get a full brigade of Mechanicum up and running. And that's going to still keep a lot of my, like, the regalia from the knights. So lots of banners and flags and spears that I've taken from like the Bretonians and Sisters of Battle kind of thing. I've got a lot of Empire banners and stuff. I want them to my Mechanicum to look regal and a little bit eccentric.
Well, there you go. I think you achieved that, man. They look good.
Yeah.
I look forward to owning them also.
No. I always say endlessly, I'll never sell these. I'll never sell them. And then a year later, they live at Dan's house. But
I think the thing is, though, the reason, and to give some context to people listening to this, I'm not just hoovering up all these armies for no reason whatsoever. It's more a case of I regret. So since I've known Joe. What are we talking now? It's got to be bordering on 6 years now, mate. But the thing was with that was in that time when I first met Joe, he had a Necron army. Then he sold it. Then he got himself, I want to say, a Salamander's army?
Yeah, it was a Forge World Salamander's army, and most of it you actually got for me in exchange for something else, and I can't remember what it was.
Anyway, Salamander's army.
I remember that army.
It was gorgeous, wasn't it? It had loads of Landspeeder Storms,
Lots of
had
drop
old
pods.
Vulcan in it as well. Looked gorgeous.
It was mainly a heresy army that I used for 40k because it was a period of time where heresy hadn't really kicked off. I just wanted the models, and I used a lot of them for 40k as like the Pyroclast, the Flamer guys as like command squad models and stuff. And it was they're all in drop pods and they all had boarding shields. It was glorious. That was a beautiful army.
And then after that, I feel like you moved on to Dark Elder.
Yeah, I bought your Dark Eldar off you, which you built the entire army and spray painted it black. Yep. And I bought that off you and then expanded it and painted it a really nice blue and gold colour scheme.
And then you sold that.
Yeah. That is one of my big regrets, actually, that Dark Eldar army, considering how good Dark Eldar are now. And they were one of the armies that very nearly got into the cabinet at a Warhammer World event. But I kind of just missed out.
And then I think you did Alpha Legion?
Well, I did Harlequins.
And there was the Alpha Legion at some point.
Alpha Legion. I did Alpha Legion when they released Betrayal of Calf.
Yeah, it was like you had loads of Contemptor Dreadnoughts, didn't you?
Yeah, I had loads of Contemptor Dreadnoughts, loads of Terminators, loads of Plasma Gun Squad, stuff like that, because that's what Alpha Legion were good at.
Yeah. So there was Alpha Legion, then it was Harlequins. Then you settled on a long-time Iron Warrior project.
Yeah, that was huge, that Iron Warrior.
That was a great army, though. It looked amazing.
A gorgeous army. Really lovely. But it was the Iron Warrior army that triggered my realization that I was like, I should have bought all these armies off him. Because right now, if we had a backlog of your 5 years of production, we'd have a great battle report capabilities, wouldn't we? We'd be like, look at all these. Whatever you want. Any time of the week. But there you go. Never was.
So, as a side project, well, for the future, I'm slowly hoovering up the metal Iron Warrior upgrade packs, GW. So I'm probably going to end up doing Iron Warriors again.
That'll be the third time you've done Iron Warriors.
I know, I always go back to them. It's just like I try and leave and then I get pulled back in because I inevitably end up rereading Storm of Iron or, as I am now, re-listening to Angel Exterminatus on Audible. I'm just like, Iron Warriors is so cool.
Maybe you just need to not sell your Iron Warriors army when you get it again.
Yeah. Well, if I do, I'll just leave it at Dan's house in preparation.
Also, you did Red Scorpions once as well with Imperial Knights.
Oh yeah, I forgot about them.
Yeah, I did.
And Minotaurs as well, briefly.
Minotaurs, yeah, he did Minotaurs. What else did he do? He
I had
must have done something else.
I did Tau.
No, you
Like,
didn't.
I had a very small Tau force when me and you first met as friends.
Oh, maybe.
But it was like, I had something. Like I had a massive thing for stealth suits and Pathfinders. Is when they just released the new plastic kits, and I was just like, I need this army.
Makes sense.
I had loads of Khorne demons that I sold to you. I've on and off tried normal Eldar a few times.
Didn't you also try and do Age of Sigmar at one point? Wasn't there an Age of Sigmar army?
So yeah, I've tried and failed Age of Sigmar a lot of times. So I had a Age of Sigmar Dark Elf army. And I had a couple games with that, and that's when Age of Sigmar came out, and their rules were and still are terrible. Because I got loads and loads of Hydras, and what's the other one?
I don't know. This isn't an Age of Sigmar podcast, Joe.
I had a Nurgle Demon army.
Oh god, yeah, you had a Nurgle Demon army!
Yeah. So I because when 8th dropped, I had the best 6 months ever of mine and yours personal gaming win-loss ratio. Like, I was cleaning up. I actually won a couple of events as well, because I was running something like 3 units of 20 Plague Bearers and a Herald with Be'lakor, and then I'd run 3 Mauler Fiends with a Sorcerer. And
why are you still running that army?
Pardon?
What you because Plague Bears are still really competitive.
Yeah, but I was
stuck it out with those guys.
Yeah.
So what we've discovered here is Joe buys and sells an awful lot of armies. But in the history of him buying and selling armies, I have now only gotten around to buying 1, maybe 2 of them. I can't remember which the other one was I bought. Because I bought an Iron Warrior army off you at the start, and then I've recently bought those knights. Was there another one I bought of you recently? I can't remember.
Was it you didn't buy my Harlequins, did you?
No, I know you've been painting up my Blood Angels, but that's kind of related to a bunch of different stuff. But yeah, anyway, long story short, that's the ongoing saga that is Joe's collecting habit.
Yeah, but this year is going to be the year of Death Watch. That's my plan, I think.
Well,
it's just
that you've started talking about this year, I feel like we should start talking about our predictions for this year. Wouldn't that make sense?
Yeah.
Joe, you opened this segment. Please close us out with some transitional noises and your final thoughts.
It was a good year last year. This year, which we are now in, will hopefully be better.
So after all that exciting talk about what came in 2018, let's start predicting what we think might happen in 2019, the year of hobby that lies ahead of us. We have some clues, obviously, after the Vigilus campaign, the Starscream of Warhammer 40,000, as named by Joe. I can't take credit for that, by the way. What was the guy's name? The guy that was a Black Legion Raptor character?
Harakan. Hadouken.
Yeah, World Taker, I think it is.
He had a controversial moment this week, didn't he, where he lost the ability to buff all raptors, then got that back?
Yeah. Well, I feel Games Workshop made the mistake. Well, his name's Harkin. Anyway.
Good.
But with 2 A's. I think they should have stuck to their guns and kept the Black Legion keyword. Because they changed it from all Raptor units within 6 inches re-roll 1s in the combat phase to all Black Legion Raptor units.
Which makes sense, because he is a Black Legion character.
Yeah. Because my issue now is that the keyboard warriors going to start calling out for other Space Marine characters to buff other units, kind of thing?
Well, I think the argument in this case was more the fact that they'd advertised it a certain kind of way only like less than a month ago, and then they FAQ'd it after having sold people on a Harken and a load of boxes of Raptors. So someone out there probably bought him and a bunch of Raptors and then was annoyed because they're like, oh, can I use him in Black Legion? I mean, admittedly, as far as I'm aware, he's no better than a regular Chaos Lord in a jump pack. He's just got a spear that's not nearly as good as people suggest it might be. Am I wrong about that?
So his spear can't be used in close combat. It's
Brilliant.
an assault 1 +1 strength -3 AP D3 damage shot.
Wow, it's terrible then.
So it's awful. And then
can
for
it snipe a character? Could you go, there's a character, snipe? No, you can't. I'm saying that because that would be something useful, and I'm fully aware that it doesn't have that.
And then his close combat thing is a single lightning claw. And it's quite funny because the rules, the rule part of his thing says you can reroll failed wounds if you attack with his weapon, and if a model's armed with 2 lightning claws, then it gets +1 attack. But he can't have 2 lightning claws, so why put that rule in?
What if spies? No, there's absolutely no. You can't even shenanigans that in any way, shape, or form, can you? That's just madness.
I assume that's just the generic lightning claws rule, so they've just put it in there verbatim rather than adjust it for a single lightning claw.
Yeah, and like what they should, because like one of his other special rules is enemy units of 18 inches subtract 1 from their leadership.
Ooh.
So what they've done here is they've made a Night Lord's HQ and painted him wrong.
Yeah, but they needed something to talk about when Abaddon comes out in a couple of weeks.
Then they should have used Tim the Psyker instead. Have you seen that hilarious meme of that new sorcerer model that they showed off?
Yes.
No, I've not seen this. Tim?
So for the January Games Workshop Open Day, the last thing they revealed
Tim
was a Black Legion sorcerer, and someone pointed out and then made a hilarious meme of it that he looks like Tim the Sorcerer from Monty Python.
And the Holy Grail.
And the Holy Grail. So they should have just made him the Herald and then given Night Lords a terrible HQ option.
Well, that's what they need, Night Lords. They need another terrible HQ option to fill up their time.
What they should have done is just, instead of having the shonky spear, given him a second lightning claw, that would have fit them. It would have meant that they'd have a 6 attack character, which still gives the -1 leadership bubble, still has the Lord of Terror HQ Warlord trait. I don't know what that means because I don't have a Chaos Codex nearby. I imagine it has other leadership degrading abilities.
I mean, it sounds like it, doesn't it, with the name Lord of Terror?
Yeah, so what's going to happen now is that all Night Lord players are just going to buy this guy and paint him dark blue.
I strongly suspect that not all Night Lord players are going to buy this guy. I don't think there's really any appetite.
Yeah, you just take a Chaos Lord and give him a jump pack and 2 lightning claws.
Exactly. Do it better. So I suppose, given the fact that old World Eater, or whatever he's called, the Herald of Abaddon, is that right? Abaddon. What are we going with?
I think Abaddon is correct.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
I think Abaddon is like the like the lazy way of saying it, isn't it?
Fair enough. Well, anyway, the Herald of Abaddon is telling us that in a period of time, still as of this moment in time, not completely certain how long is left, but it's like, what, 60 days?
30 days. 30 days they announced on Games Workshop on Monday, I think.
Oh, so we're not far off for Abaddon the Despoiler coming back, are we? I mean, that's a pretty solid prediction. Abaddon's coming back. He was even photographed in the background artwork for Tim, didn't he?
Yeah.
So that's going to happen. Although, interestingly, much like how when Marnius Calgar didn't turn into a dreadnought, maybe they're trolling us. Maybe it will be someone else entirely. And, I don't know, it's Perturabo or someone like that. Who could come back? Who else could they bring back other than Abaddon?
Perturabo could happily come back because he's just sat on his little planet making Doom robots.
There are a lot of people saying maybe Angry Ron would come back. Old Angry Ron. Do you think he'll come back?
Angron or Fulgrim?
Angry Ron.
I
But
don't think either will come for Vigilus. I think Abaddon is the most likely character because they've pretty much said so.
Well,
if he's going to come, it'll probably be him. But I think later in the year, Fulgrim is probably good.
you're holding out hope for the return of the Emperor's Children by the end of the year.
I mean, like you said, they've shown a noise marine. If that's any indication, maybe that means something. I'm really surprised it wasn't those guys in Blackstone Fortress. As I said, on my theory, this year is going to be the year of Slanesh, because obviously they are for one god that they haven't really done yet, and they're doing them clearly for Age of Sigmar, which means it's going to then bleed into 40k at some point. So it makes sense that they will do a Slanesh themed Chaos chapter. So obviously that's going to be, those dudes with the Noise Marines.
I hope so, man. I mean, so if we're universally accepting the fact that Abaddon's coming back in something like 30 days, do we suspect, or what do we think will come with him? What's our expectation here? Are we expecting new Chaos Space Marine kits to come along with him? Because that's my expectation. I hope
so. I mean, they've done 2 models from the Blackstone Fortress. Surely there's got to be more. I mean, I'd be disappointed if there isn't any more of those models watching around somewhere waiting to come out in an actual box sets. And I wouldn't also be too surprised if they do a full Traitor Guard army of some kind.
The full Traitor Guard would be amazing. But I think in terms of, what do we think? Do you think we're going to be looking at a actual Black Legion Codex, or do you think it's just going to be a Vigilus book heavily featuring Black Legion?
Yeah, I reckon it'll be more that way, because when they did the Wrath of Magnus, they put the entire Thousand Sons Codex essentially into that one supplement, didn't they? I can see Black Legion, because it's going to be new. It'll be rules for Legion traits, relics, stuff like that. Because Black Legionnaires are just new Chaos Space Marine models at the end of the day.
Yeah. They're like the generic Ultramarines of the Chaos variety.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll see some other kits. I'd like to see some Havocs released, because currently the Chaos Havoc kit is awful.
It's pretty terrible.
It's just a resin upgrade kit, basically. I'd like to see maybe plastic obliterators. That would be a nice kit.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, a dual kit that actually uses mutilators, and obliterators in a one-er would be quite nice. Maybe as well, if they're going to do plastic obliterators and mutilators, there could be, like they've done with a few of these kits, the opportunity to create an obliterator or mutilator HQ choice would be quite cool. I'd like to see something like that within the range, because I feel like the obliterators are sort of a weird... I mean, the obliterators are a product of 3rd edition 40k, I think was when they first came into existence.
Yeah, they had some awful models back then as well.
Yeah, didn't they paint them like purple or something as well back in the day?
Yeah. I'd like to see some like Legion up. So like you've got with the Blood Angels, the Dark Angels, and the Space Wolf upgrade sprue.
Mm.
I'd like to see like a Chaos Legions
upgrade
kits. So like you'd have Emperor's Children, World Eaters, Iron Warriors, stuff like that.
I think the problem with that though is each Legion tends to be like their armor is fully themed to that sort of Legion or chapter. It's not just shoulder pads like it's with Space
Maybe
Marines.
you'd have like things like Night Lords, Iron Warriors, Red Corsairs. They're all kind of generic.
Yeah, like Red Corsairs I'd like to see stuff for.
So you'd like to see a new Huron, would you?
Yeah.
Maybe he gets his Terminator armor back. That'd be cool.
I don't think he's ever getting his Terminator armor back. I'd just like to see one that's not kind of doing that weird kind of like, open palm thing that he's doing. It just sort of seems like such a mad pose at the moment when you see the Huron. Plus also his spell familiar or his whatever he is familiar looks mad. That little kind of like snarly rat beast that he's got going around with him. It's not good. It's not a good look, mate.
Whatever it's called.
Yeah, Huron's got some really lovely, fluff and lore around him with the Badab War and everything that went on with that. I mean, that was a really, really good story within the Warhammer 40,000 universe, and to have him reduced to that model is a bit frustrating. I mean, even his Forge World stuff I wasn't super into, although I know you posted a picture of one of them that came in the other day that actually looked quite nice just to sort of see it again. But yeah, I think my thing is with Chaos Space Marines is that obviously they've had a lot of love when it comes to Death Guard. Thousand Suns had a lot of attention towards the end of 7th edition, but I do think we need to address and somehow approach Chaos Space Marines as a faction and update them quite tremendously, because as it stands, Chaos Space Marines, the standard box or the standard Chaos Space Marine troop option looks really, really outdated, and I think that's a real shame for the biggest threat in the galaxy to have such a poor showing when it comes to the range of miniatures available to them. So I would imagine if I was Games Workshop that a big project would be completely innovating and updating your Chaos Space Marine range, because at the moment the Chaos Space Marine range it's pretty abysmal. With a few fantastic exceptions, it's pretty abysmal when it comes to the core range. I mean, the new Hellbrute kit they did a couple of years ago is beautiful. The new Death Guard stuff they've done is really lovely. The new Thousand Suns stuff is great, but just the generic Chaos Space Marines and Chaos Space Marine Terminators, and even the selection of like Chaos Lords, HQ choices, the resin ones. I mean, obviously, thank God Abaddon's going to hopefully get released in 30 or so days, because that old model looks so tired and old. But even things like Fabius Bile and Huron, and I think is that it in terms of the generic character? Not that.
I reckon Fabius Bile and Lucius will come later down the line.
Yeah.
Well, there's lots of talk of like within the lore of Fabius Bile dabbling with the sort of Primaris gene seed, or whether he's got it or stolen it. I can't quite remember, but it'll be interesting if they actually use that as a sort of an excuse to basically do Primaris Chaos. Now, weirdly, a lot of the Chaos models are as big or just only a tiny bit smaller than the Primaris range as it is. So, for example, Death Guard are pretty big models. Like, they're bigger than Space Marines, but a slightly bit smaller, if only by a tiny bit, than Primaris. So I don't know whether they need to introduce Primaris as like a fluff reason for bringing them into Chaos, or if it's just to give them new stats or new units, maybe. Because I think Games Workshop's got a real thing about quite often, if a model exists, they won't update it. They'd much rather create a new unit that's completely unique than update an old plastic kit or an old resin kit. Which is why you've still got so many old things within like the Elder and Chaos range, especially.
Well, I think in the case of Chaos Space Marines, though, I don't know, for some reason with Chaos Space Marines, it seems like a much easier thing to do. I don't know why that is that way. Maybe, obviously, people out there might be like, no, it's the exact same problem as it was with Space Marines. But for some reason, for me, the idea of them going, look, here's a new Chaos Space Marine kit, and it just replaces the old Chaos Space Marines, done. I don't necessarily see that as a problem, but maybe
I think they would. I think they would, like the generic stuff. I think they would, but things like a Demon Prince, will they give you an updated kit, or would it be something completely? Would they rather give you a different big kind of chaotic creature or machine?
Yeah, I mean, Demon Princes are amongst some of the things that don't need updates, although they are looking a bit tired even now. But I think, I just think it's stuff like it's the core options, as Joe says, the Havocs, the Chaos Space Marines, the Terminators, the some of the characters, and
Berserkers.
And Berserkers, oh god, yeah, Berserkers need a lot of attention. Trying to think if there's anything else within their range which is really not... I mean, because the Raptors got an update in the 2013-2012 6th edition release, as did the Warp Talons, which were a new release for that. And then obviously they got all their new demonic war engines or war machines, so the Mauler Fiends, Forge Fiends, and Helldrakes all came into existence in that release as well. So I just think the core of the army just needs to be updated, because I think it's I wouldn't be disappointed if only Abaddon came out, but I feel like we need to get a supporting cast of new things for Abaddon to kind of come along with and bring to the fight. I think that would be super cool. But there you go. So obviously we kind of know Chaos is coming. What I think we should do is each of us should throw out a wild piece of speculation about a thing they think might happen in 2019. So I'm gonna start with dear old Joe. What do you think, Joe, will happen in 2019? What do you want to see released? What do you suspect might occur? One thing, Joe. What do you believe?
Either
sorry, mate,
Lionel Johnson.
Oh, sorry.
Or
sorry, I crashed your thing there. Say that again.
Either Lionel Johnson or Lehman Russ.
So you think a new loyalist Primarch will return to the 41st millennia?
Yeah, I think that they'll turn up. Or Primaris Dante. They got to bring a new nice character into it for the good guys.
There's a whole sweep of things you've just gone for there. So you're going for Primaris Dante.
Yeah.
The Lion, or what was the other one you went with?
Lehman Russ.
Lehman Russ. So not Khan. You don't think Khan's coming back?
No, because White Scars are poo. And that makes me sad, because White Scars really need help.
Vulcan? Do you think Vulcan can come back?
Potentially.
Do you know what happened to Vulcan when last we saw him?
Well, I'm only up to... Last time I saw him in a book, he was mad, naked, running around Macragge, chasing after the Night Haunter.
Good day.
I don't know what he's doing now. Yeah.
Well, to the best of my understanding, I think he appeared in the novel series of The Beast Rises, and I think he tried to defend a world against the Orcs, and then died in the process, is what I understood to be the case. But I could be wrong. That could be...
He's perpetual, so he can't die.
Well, but again, I think there's a lot of speculation around whether or not he lost that ability over time. But then that's me quoting things that the good people of 40k Theories came up with, so I can't take any credit for that. But yeah, Vulcan, probably not. I don't imagine that.
Yeah, mine will be Loyalist Primarch, if I'm going to choose one. I don't know who.
If they're going to do one, and they probably wouldn't, because I think they still need to have Gilliman being like the sort of shining example for humanity, and having another one in sort of messes that up. But if they were, it'd have to be much more well-known one. So I think Lehman Russ is probably the one they might do.
I reckon what they need is a Primarch to come in who's wholly against Primaris Marines, which would then create a level of conflict within the Imperium. I think that's what they kind of need and are missing. Because at the moment, Calgar's gone, I'll be a Primaris Marine. That's what the Imperium needs. We need to draw the oldie Space Marines and the newie Space Marines together and create that strong bond. And I think someone like the Lion is going to rock up and be like, what the fudge is going on here?
The thing is with Lionel Johnson, though, is it's not entirely... It's difficult to understand whether or not his motivations would be to cast out Primaris Marines or not, because the thing is obviously Primaris Marines have kind of been indoctrinated into his Legion up to this point. Not his Legion, sorry, his chapter. But the thing is like, there's a lot of stuff about Dark Angels treating Primaris Marines with contempt or whatever and being really harsh to them, so they're always getting like that. I think the story is that they wipe their minds constantly, so like they kind of perform these like token roles within the chapter, and then also that the Primaris Marines are more aware of what the secrets of the chapter are than maybe they should be, and that the Dark Angels are sort of kidding themselves if they think that they can, you know, fool these guys into not knowing what's going on. But yeah, I mean, I think something like that would be interesting. Something that moves forwards the potential for a civil war brewing and becoming a thing would be super interesting. I like the idea of Russ coming back only because I'd love to explore the story more of Logan becoming a champion of chaos. Like I think if there could be a nice division where Logan goes off and takes a bunch of Space Wolves off to become like a Chaos Space Wolf army, and then Russ comes back and, I don't know, maybe elevates not Lehman Russ, he's Lehman Russ, but he elevates Ragnar Blackmane to the role of Great Wolf or whatever Logan was, and something like that would be good. So as we get a nice new Ragnar Blackmane model, because we need a new Ragnar Blackmane model, because he's a cool character. He needs some love.
Yeah.
But there you
Who
go.
died in that story anyway?
Which story?
In the fall of, like, the Return of Magnus one.
No one. Everything was fine. Carry on.
Didn't Harold die? Was it Harold? Best name, by the way.
Oh, well, you mean the guy who runs around on the back of a wolf? He might have done. An insignificant character. Maybe it was Nigel. Did Nigel die?
We can't kill Nigel.
You can't kill Nigel, can you? The wolf priest guy, what's his name again? Matey boy, the wolf priest. Ulrich. Did Ulrich die?
I wouldn't have thought so.
No, I don't think it. They made him a new model. They ain't killing him off.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. Well, there you go. Phil, what do you think could occur in 2019? What would your prediction be?
I believe this year will be the year of the sub-factions. So I think we'll get lots of mini codexes coming out. And I have a slew of possible ideas of what might be coming based on last year's rumour mill of what stuff should be coming out, but never did. So who knows if we're...
Are you hoping for a Krieg Codex? See, I was so confident you were going to go Krieg Codex.
Well, so I don't know if we'll see a Krieg Codex, but what I would really like to see is a Forge World book of some kind with updating all the Forge World units, so, you know, the tanks and stuff. Not just necessarily for Krieg, but also for, you know, generic Astra Militarum. Ideally, it'd be great if we saw a Krieg book, whether that's a Games Workshop Codex. Because actually, one thing I would like to see is Forge World is much more of a model making company, and within that, there's obviously the Specialist Games division, which does things like Adeptus Titanicus and Blood Bowl and Necromunda and what have you. But I think they should be making models for Forge World, for 40k, but Games Workshop should be writing the rules for them. And because I think what happens at the moment is you get a lot of creep with the rules. So, with the Vigilus campaign book, you've got loads of cool rules in there for specialist attachments. But none of them, with the odd few exception, can apply to Forge World models because they're sort of excluded from that. And when the FAQ came out, they weren't included in it, which is a bit disappointing. But then they've done that for something. So, the big Forge World Knights have been included in the Games Workshop Codex. Not actually in the Codex, but in the updated FAQ. So, potentially you've got the Traitor Guardsman models coming out. If that was to be a Codex or a campaign book, you could tie that in with Krieg, potentially in a kind of Siege of Rax style campaign. Although I'm sort of not over Siege of Rax, but it's a story they've done twice now. I'd much rather see a new story with Krieg in. They talk about in the Kill Team Terrain, there's one that is a sort of trench network kill zone. And within that, they talk about Krieg now being under the attack of an Orc War. So that could be a whole new story that they could explore, or just do a completely different story as well. But no, that's not what I was actually going to go on about. I was actually talking about some newer sub-factions that I'd like to see. And one of them we sort of touched on one because we talked about Leman Russ coming back. Now, last year there was this rumour going around that there'd be Dark Wolves, which is what I'd quite like to see. So the idea of Leman Russ comes back with a bunch of his brethren, but they are all tainted by the warp. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that they'd have to be chaos aligned. They could be a bit more neutral or play for both sides, a bit like how Cypher is hinted at being chaotic, but also not. And if you want to take him with a Chaos army, you can do. And if you want to take him with a Imperium army, you can do. I'd like to see an army like that that's much more neutral, but can play both sides. That would be quite cool and give you a whole new slew of options for slightly warp-tainted, sort of almost Imperial models.
No, that'd be really cool, man. I mean, a sub-faction I would like to see explored more would be probably the Kroot. I think Kroot would be a really great one.
They were rumoured to come out, or people talked about them, and it makes sense to take them and make them their own faction. So that would be a good one. They talked about prime orcs, like orcs getting bigger, and obviously that didn't happen with the Codex, so who knows if you'd see them, but maybe they'd come in as a sub-faction in their own right, so they're sort of separate models and separate units.
I do also think, not to sort of double up on my suggestions, but I do also think they need to do a full Ynnari Codex, which actually features some Ynnari exclusive stuff, so as we can clarify and clean up that part of the rule set. So I would also like to see Ynnari come out as a book.
I think that makes sense because they're one of the factions that clearly hasn't come out yet. And yeah, if they do, they should have hopefully some more models. It'd be, like I said, it'd be great for them to be less of an add-on that you take with Craftworld Elder, and instead be like, actually, there's maybe one or two units that you can take, like limit the amount of Craftworld stuff they can take, and actually have much more Ynnari specific units available to them. Just because then that stops them just being why would I just not make all my Elder Ynnari because they've got a really powerful army buff. Like, they're basically souped up Elder, whereas they should be a bit more, ironically, like Krieg, which is still Astra Militarum, but they have unique access to specific vehicles, specific troop types, and they don't get all the benefits that the regular main faction has.
Didn't Ynnari have, like, is it the Black Guard and like the Black War Walkers?
I think we've been through this once before. No is the answer to that question.
Oh.
So what happened is in the Fracture of Beltane Gathering Storm book, they released rules for Ynnari, and then separately they released rules for the Ulfway Black Guardian army. So the Black Guardian army used webway strikes, and it was made up of Guardians, Warwalkers, Wind Riders, and Farseers and stuff of that nature.
But they weren't Ynnari.
They were, well, again, you could theoretically, I believe, run them as Ynnari, but they weren't intended to be one and the same thing in the initial instance.
Because I thought it was all the Elder basically painting their armour black to say that they've joined the kind of Cult of the Death Ynnari and losing their old kind of craft world behind them, unless I'm wrong.
No, so that is, so I believe, again, I've got the book right next to me. Hang on, talk amongst yourself. Hang on. Hang on.
Have a little intermission.
Yeah, I think they confused everyone by just releasing it all in one big moosh boosh.
Yeah, because I assumed that was a specific way of playing Ynnari, and that's what they can become.
Guys, weird looking at a 7th edition book and looking all the ridiculous formations again. You sort of look at it going, wow, okay. So, I was right. So, here it is on page 130 of Gathering Storm, Fracture of Beltane, Forces of Ulfway, Ancient Doom, Battle Focus, Black Guardian units on numbers of special rules, blah, blah, blah. So, yes, it's just another set of rules for Elder. Because, you know, back in 7th edition 40k, Elder didn't have enough rules, so they thought they'd give them more.
And obviously we're going to see things like Sisters of Battle appear, but that's going to be a main, like, less of a sub-faction, more their own thing. I guess, do you think we'll see more Sisters of Silence? Do you think they'll be flashed out into their own codex?
Well, there was that talk of them doing a Talons of the Emperor book, wasn't there? Where all the Forge World stuff in line, and then hopefully we'd see a flushed out version of Sisters of Silence, because they released that character, Janesha Kroll model, didn't they, for Heresy? That would have then given Sisters of Silence a HQ option, which is something they kind of missed.
Would she have lived all that time to...
Well, I doubt it. I think they would have just made her like generic HQ rules and just be done with it.
No, that's true.
Or they can do some weird kind of like superhero passing down the mantle thing. Maybe it just becomes like Vulcan. It just becomes a name that you call the person in charge.
Yeah.
Do you think we're about to see other sub-faction ideas? A Rogue Trader Codex with a whole bunch more of Rogue Trader models?
I think it's a high likelihood. I think the thing is, I think with the series of campaign books they've got coming forwards, I don't know necessarily, because like Black Legion, right? I mean, we talked about that already quite extensively at the start here, but I think Black Legion will become a sub-faction codex release type thing, but it might form part of the campaign books going forwards, as opposed to having specific codexes. It's just like, well, in this episode of the Vigilus campaign book, this faction is also explored a bit more.
Yeah, I think that weirdly, it depends when that second Vigilus book comes out, because it will either be like Gathering Storm, where there'll be like, one a month, even though they've said there's only going to be 2 parts, I believe. It'd be great if they could extend it for longer, and it'd be a bit more ongoing throughout the year, but I imagine it is just a 2 parts, because I think that's what they've said. So that if they weren't to have Abaddon in there, it would be odd, but at the same time, it would be a bit annoying for them to have done like Death Guard and Thousand Suns as a separate codex, and for then that to not get its own book, and for it to just be crammed in the Vigilus book. I'd much rather see Vigilus be still a bit more campaigny, and maybe have a few other units in there that don't have to be the Chaos stuff, if the Chaos Codex comes out at the same time. Or Black Legion Codex, should I say.
I was going to say, well, they put Carolgar, his Victrix Guard, and Harken all in this book. So potentially we're just going to see a single box set release. Well, two single box sets, or one with Abaddon and one with Tim the Psyker.
Yeah.
And that'll be it. And
that'll be a shame because you've clearly got all the kind of cool designs from Black Saint Fortress for Chaos Space Marines. So to not do more of them will be, just be a bit of a shame because I'd love to see more of them.
It might just be a standalone release.
Could be.
Yeah, I think the thing is what we've seen in 2017, 2018 is a frantic release of all of the established literature, i.e. all the existing armies have had their codexes just rapid fire released to accommodate this edition. And now that we're kind of at the end of that cycle, I think we're heading into that period now where we'll start to see a more kind of trickled out kind of release schedule where there's odd releases every now and again and major kind of like tentpole releases like the Sisters of Battle where they go, this is a full army release, but the rest of the time it might just be here's a new thing, here's a new thing, here's a new thing, and then subsequently we just have to rely on the fact that the rules for those characters will come included within the packaging when you buy it. So obviously when you buy Marlius Kelger and his Victrix Guard, all the rules for those are in the box. And credit where credit's due to Games Workshop now, the quality of those pamphlets that you get in the boxes are so much better than they used to be. So not that I'm saying that that's an ideal solution, but you know, at least it's something. Also as well, we've started to see with what was the last release they did that was a codex release? It was why can I not remember now? What was the last codex they put out?
Orcs, wasn't it?
Yeah, and didn't they do cards for the Orcs, or am I making that up?
No, I don't think they did cards for Orcs.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I know they did cards for Knights, but I think that was specifically so you could just get those and add them to other armies or for ease of play.
I swear there was another release that they released cards for lately, or unless, of course, I'm thinking about like the Gloom Spike Gits or whatever they're called in Age of Sigmar. But regardless of that scenario, maybe that's a system we move towards where they, you know, you can just buy cards to, for the references or where. I don't know. What I'd love to see them do is just buy Battlescribe or work with Battlescribe and just continue to support that digital process. I still will buy every book because I've got a horrid addiction, but you know, I'd still like to see some kind of digital system for supporting those releases.
Well, that was going to be like my, prediction as one thing I'd like to see in terms of wish listing. Not that I think we'd actually see it, and it's like would be a better version of Battlescribe that's, or at least a form up to the quality of Battlescribe at least that's supported officially by the Games Workshop. Because they've got like the freebie app on the Warhammer community page, but I think it's just power level and not points.
Yeah, it's power level, and it's terrible. It's a really not that good at all. The Age of Sigmar app on iOS and Android is actually relatively good, although they have an issue with that I've still not seen resolved, where battalions can't. There's some weird thing where it's not entirely intuitive when you're inserting units into your battalions and so on and so forth. But beyond that, it's still pretty reasonable for what you're paying for it. I mean, I think it's like 99p a month or something. But yeah, no, I'd like to see something along those lines for sure. I think. Oh, sorry, Joe.
I was going to say that we could see codex releases in White Dwarf, actually. Because obviously the last White Dwarf that was released, you had all these updated rules for Crimson Fists. You got Warlord traits, detachment rules, stratagems, and a relic. So I think potentially that's where we could see Black Legion rules come in, for instance. Because Black Legion are just standard Chaos Space Marines, essentially. All they need is extra stratagems, extra warlord traits, and a couple cool detachments. So maybe that's where we could see future sub-factions pop up.
Yeah, that's true. I think in a way it's good that they're doing that because you can at least get it in print.
Yeah.
It is just a bit frustrating then that if you're taking that army, it's like I've got to take a White Dwarf magazine, and that magazine isn't as hard wearing as a hardback codex, for example.
Yeah. And unfortunately for Crimson Fist players, they now have to have the Space Marine Codex, the Vigilus book, and a White Dwarf.
Yeah, if you want to take it all, it's sort of getting to that point, a bit like with 7th edition, where loads of cool new rules are being introduced into the game, but it does mean you've got to obviously have all these physical bits of paper and extra books and campaign books if you want to take each and everything. I mean, at the end of the day, if all you need is one detachment from the Vigilus campaign book, is you can either remember those rules or just take a photo of it or something, or photograph it and then just put it inside your main codex.
Well, let's be honest with ourselves. What most of us are doing is turning up with all the books in a bag, never removing them from said bag because Battlescribe has it all in there. So you just go, there it is. And if you really need to reference something, you got the book. At least that's how I do it. I mean, my usual rule is to try and know the rules that I'm using, but then if it's ever questioned, I always have the books on me. But I usually start out by going, well, let's see what it says on Battlescribe, and then if that's not enough to satisfy them or they think there's an issue with that, I always carry the books with me as well. But yeah, it is frustrating that we're getting into that situation now, that we're moving beyond turning up with a little thing of rules, and let's not forget as well, you need the FAQs, the chapter approves, the FAQs to the FAQs. It's just like there's so many. If you turned out with all the printouts for your armies as well in terms of FAQs, rulebook FAQs, it's quite a bloated game system in that way right now. Like they've tried to obviously remove a lot of the complexity, but we're back to a point where it's just become. I've said this before. It's become a bit of a Frankenstein's monster in the sense that now it's just layer upon layer of patches where they're just like, oh yeah, fix that, to the point now that if I can just wade in with my prediction, I think we're going to see 9th edition this year, and the reason I think we're going to see 9th edition this year is that essentially the game that is Warhammer 40,000 8th edition that you purchase from a Games Workshop store by buying Dark Imperium or a rulebook on its own doesn't really resemble the game that we're playing with Chapter Approved 2018, the big FAQs, all these elements. I mean, obviously the core aspects of it are in place, but I think we're just so far removed from that original printing that I
don't think it's that bad. I mean, if you have a core rule book and Chapter Approved 2018, it's like you're pretty spot on, and you only need 2018 if you're doing like match play or to be a bit more kind of within the competitive meta.
But I think the big FAQs and the erratas and all the things that have gone into it though as well. I think the thing is, I think we are in a situation where, much like with Age of Sigmar, where 2nd edition Age of Sigmar came out 2018, I think we're just in that situation with 40k now, where it's like it's got to a point now where it kind of feels like we need a new release, because there's so many little nuanced rules that they've kind of got their heads around through competitive play and things that have happened. I think, at the end of the day, the game has some obvious issues, which I think they know about and will address with a 9th edition. But I think, I look at it and I think, like, when you look at what the changes they've brought to Age of Sigmar 2, and you think about how that potentially can apply to a new edition of Warhammer 40,000, I think, again, it depends how they approach it, because, again, I think they did quite a good job with Age of Sigmar 2, where they kind of shouldered the burden by doing a really, really good quality box set where they released 2 new factions. Admittedly, one of them was still Stormcast Eternals, but they did do the Night Haunts and the new Chamber of Stormcasts. And I think most people were super impressed with those models, which was great. But actually, when they got into the heart of the rules, they realised that, well, It's not dramatically different. It's just everything that should have been fixed. Because I think, realistically, when they released 8th edition, I think they should have basically been... I don't think they should have released 8th edition as a finished product. I think they should have released 8th edition as a beta rule set that we play tested for 2 years, and then they went, here you go, the final thing. Because I know you don't necessarily see it that way, and we've had that discussion many times, but I think from a match play perspective, and okay, yeah, sure, from a narrative and open play perspective, you can do whatever you want, but from a match play perspective, the game is dramatically different from what the rulebook states about the missions, the win conditions, the way certain units interact, the changes to the way certain keywords work, the way that psychic powers work, even little things like the way the smite power works has been dramatically changed. So, I just think you clean all that up, you put that in an edition, you go, cool, there's all the stuff we've established. Then you do the whole thing around auras where you go, right, okay, we've made a decision. If you want to get +1 to hit, everything needs to be within the distance, not. You mean
wholly within, not just within.
Yeah, exactly, that kind of thing. Whatever they decide, but and changing the way, clarifying that one unit holds one objective, clarifying that if a unit breaks coherency, they have to be able to be moved back into coherency in your following movement phase. Otherwise, something bad happens. Either it's you divide it into half and take away the half that's, and it dies, or the whole thing dies. There's just a whole heap of stuff that I just think. I think based on everything that's happened throughout the course of the last 2 years of, well, we're not at 2 years yet, but the last year and a half of 8th edition, it wouldn't surprise me if it wouldn't surprise me if by June 2019 we have a new rulebook for Warhammer 40,000.
See, what I get where you're coming from, and I agree with a lot of the points. But rather than go, here's a new edition and here's a brand new book, I would almost rather, and this is sort of what I wish they'd done with the chapter approved books, is in the chapter approved, they just have the core rule book, which is 4 to 8 pages, however long it is, with the missions and the map, and that's all really what I wanted when they. Put in the very first chapter approved is like I'd like a much smaller book to take to a game that has all the missions, especially the map deployment types, the deployment zones, and the basic core rules. So I don't have to lug a big core codex, big rule book around. And if they did that and they updated the core rules every year within chapter approved, that way you can have an official book that has everything you need. It doesn't necessarily need every single FAQ in it or anything like that. Yeah. But it could have the big FAQ in theory.
Well, I think the thing is...
that's the one book that you need for your whole year.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is that I think there are certain rules and certain things that probably now, after 2 years of beta testing, if you will, that we've all gone through as a community, that we can establish now are pretty solid. So the way that movement works with the fly keyword, the way that what used to be called deep strike, now put in reserve and appear within 9 inches thing works, the way that the psychic powers work, such as smite, the way that combat works, the way morale works. I mean, we figured all these things out within this edition. I think that core rule set as a concept is fine, but you're absolutely right. It's like, cool, we've established that. That's a little book of the core rules with a series of missions and map types, and that's a little book that you have. But then, like you say, maybe chapter approved doesn't ever need to necessarily address those rules, because we're never going to drastically need to assess how things move in the game, because it's quite easily understood and established. We're not necessarily going to need to address how things hit stuff. But maybe there's some nuance aspects to certain things that need to be addressed at certain points, which then becomes part of Chapter Approved, where essentially there's the core rules to doing the really, really basic playing the game, and then there's the extra stuff which can be updated annually with Chapter Approved, and that could be, the boots on the ground special rules, or the, I don't know, something that affects how hordes work, or whatever. It's just that thing where I think, I pretty much said it when 8th edition came out. I was surprised that they released 8th edition as a finished product. I genuinely suspected 8th edition would be, I suspected at the start of the 8th edition, when they first released it, needed to come out in some kind of work in progress format. So like a beta rule set that was building towards not the definitive version, but a more kind of complete version of it. Because I think that's the thing. All I keep thinking is, I'm someone who wants to get into Warhammer 40,000. I go into a store, I buy the 40k rulebook. I sort of feel like that should just be everything in a book, accurate to a point. Now, and I think that's important. I mean, Joe, what do you think, mate?
Well, I think they're kind of selling it now as a living rule set that goes across. I kind of think rule books shouldn't exist now, because when you buy a rule book, it's 500 pages long, 300 pages long. The first 300, 270 of those pages is just fluff. You don't necessarily need. You could release that as a separate book, kind of thing, and then you get they need to release it. When you get any new box of anything, like you get that 6-page fold-out pamphlet. Just make that into a small little 10, 12-page pamphlet with all the rules in it, and just be done with it, and hand those out for free.
But
in
also,
Games Workshop stores.
But let's be honest as well with ourselves about the 8th edition rules, right? The 8th edition rulebook, as a set of rules to follow, is an illogical mess to actually read. Can you ever find what you're looking for in that book at a glance? Other than the most obvious things.
No, you've got a bookmark, like you get your little ribbon. It's like I try and book that on the maps, because that's the only thing I really need it for. But if you're trying to find the missions, you're sort of jumping all about, because you've got the core rules, and then it introduces you, I think it's like open play and then narrative play, and then you've got the advanced rules and the match play stuff, they're dotted all over, so you can't easily find what you want, which is sort of why, like I said, I'd like a book which has got, like, effectively it's the match play, it's got the core rules, match play, advanced rules, plus map. So it's like that's your gaming manual that you really need. And I think maybe you release them in tiny little supplements, so you can have one for open play and narrative play as an extra, and then now you can bundle in Apocalypse and Cities of Death, because they've done those in the Chapter Approved books. And now, so instead of having to go and rebuy 2017, you can just get it in this extra pamphlet supplement. Or
make it an app. Everyone uses smartphones these days.
Well, yeah, it should be. That's the ultimate.
A free app with the rules in. The Games Workshop can update at their leisure at any time, and everyone gets the updated rules at the exact same time.
I mean, I don't particularly mind the idea of it being an app, but I also think the idea of it being a book's fine. I mean, that's the thing, right? Whether this is a 9th edition book or it is a definitive book that actually explains the new rules of 8th edition as they are, because I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like 8th edition now is different from what it is in the book that was sold 2 years ago. It's not dramatically different in some places. In other places, it is. Little things like, I don't know, I'm getting into the hobby. Your average 13, 14-year-old kid who starts getting into the hobby, I start playing it at my school or whatever, and I buy 7 Hive Tyrants because I'm reading the book. I don't really talk to anybody or whatever. Just go in, buy what it says in the book, and I buy 7 Hive Tyrants, and I think, I'm gonna go play at a club. And you turn up and you go, I want to play some match play. Cool, what you got? 7 Hive Tyrants. Oh, you can't do that, mate. What do you mean? It says in the book I can. No. Capped it at 3. It doesn't say anything about that here. Oh, yeah, it was in FAQ 2 years ago. Oh, is that in the chapter approved 2018? No, it was in chapter approved 2017. Oh, okay. Did they reference it again in 2018? No. Oh, okay.
Are you sure? Because I think they put the rule of 3.
They probably have, but you know what I mean. It's one of those weird things where it's just.
So the thing is, if you want to play without the chapter approved of Big FAQ, you can do, and there's nothing stopping you from it. Which is why I don't think it's as big a deal as you make it out to be. Because if a kid wants to play with his mates with 7 Hive Tyrants, he can, and he can still do it in narrative play.
Of course. I mean, you're absolutely right. That's a bad example, but I think the thing is I think. We just need something that's a little bit more definitive. And if that becomes a new edition, which I think is what they'll probably do, fine.
Well, they could do a new edition every year. So it's 40k one year and Age of Sigmar the next year. And that's currently, for the last 3 years, what they've done. So they released Age of Sigmar. Then last year it was 40k, and then this year, previous year
it was 40k, yeah, 2017.
Okay, and then last year, 2018, was Age of Sigmar. So 2019 could be.
I think actually Age of Sigmar came out in 2015. In fact.
Yeah, I think like the storylines progressed as well. So like with Age of Sigmar, they had the Realm Gate Wars, and now they've got the Soul Wars. Story progress. So when the 8th edition box came out, it was a battle for Macragge and the 500 worlds. So, but that's kind of done and dusted now, and Games Workshop have kind of moved on from that. So, I reckon after Vigilus, you have the setting up for the next part of the story. And then maybe that will determine what the new starter box set will be. So potentially you're looking at we won't get a Black Legion release now, but you'll get a Black Legion release with the new starter box set. So like a unit of Terminators and a 10-man unit of Black Legionnaires.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't even necessarily need to be it could be a bit like the Elder and was it not Death Mask, because that was the even older one, but they've done a few
Wake the Dead is what you're thinking of.
Wake the Dead. They've done a couple of boxes which are effectively like the core starter box, but it's not the official one for the new edition. So they could do it like that, and even if in that they go, here's a mini A5 version of the rulebook, but it's updated to reflect all the new rules, it's just not a reprint of the original one. Like, that would be cool. And it's not necessarily... and that doesn't even have to be 9th edition. It's the official imprint version of the rules for this year.
That would have to then replace the starter box. But I don't think that would happen, because starter boxes historically have all been push-fit kits. And they'd want to stay with that for ease of new players. You wouldn't get the multi-part plastic kit.
Yeah, I know, I see what you mean. Yeah. Because I guess the things like Wake the Dead aren't really seen as starter boxes.
They're like expansions, really.
But I think regardless of that, I don't know, I think we're at that point, we're at that tipping point now where they've kind of... the way I kind of think about it, if I was building what 40k has become now, I kind of would look at 8th edition as a bit of a transitional edition where it's like, cool, we're taking you out of the 3 seconds, or not 3 seconds, whatever they say, 2 minutes to midnight, or whatever the 40k used to be. Because like 40k prior to 8th edition was stagnant in as much as we knew that everything was doomed. It just hadn't quite happened yet. And what 8th edition and the Gathering Storm series delivered was the whole new progression for the story into uncharted territory. and that's what we're in right now. And I think the thing is if I was thinking about how do I take 40k to that next place, you need a transitional edition to get us there. And everything about 8th edition feels transitional because there's a few extra new releases, there's a few new things, but it's all about what's to come, what's next. Marnius Calgar's become a Primaris Marine. You know, Abaddon's coming back. There's a new Primarch. There's all these things on the horizon. I just think it makes sense now that they take what they've built and they've created a solid foundation using new core rules, and they refine it into something that now takes them into the next step, which essentially is leading on from what you were talking about with new codexes, new armies, new stories, new directions. I think that's the thing. It's like we're at this point now where we've done right by, talking as Games Workshop, we've done right by our fan base. We've released all these codexes. No one feels like they've been left behind because we've given everyone everything. Now we move on, and things start to change. And I think that's where it becomes more like what Age of Sigmar represents to Warhammer Fantasy, where new stuff starts happening. So yeah, I don't know. That's my broad perspective on it, but I think it could happen. It's a mad prediction, but it could happen.
I think you're right. I think it's like a new starter box set, a new updated rule set is probably the next step of the year.
I can also see them doing it maybe next year rather than this year. So this year is just, sub-factions and whatnot, and still doing the... Because it's weird, like they're still doing beta rules, right? And they're still testing those out. So for them to say, we're asking your feedback on these sort of relatively minor changes to the game, but actually forget all that. Here's a whole new bunch of rules that we've not asked you at all on, and it's a new edition.
Again, though, if you look at how Age of Sigmar 2 came out of Age of Sigmar, it basically is the same game. It's just refined. They've just taken everything they've learned and made decisions that have been definitive. And I think that's the thing. It's like, to call what comes next after 40k 9th edition is probably not accurate, because I think 8th edition is more like 1st edition game that also happens to be called Warhammer 40,000, because we looked at the rules the other day for the Imperial Knights that are now playable in Horus Heresy, and I think me and Phil were talking about how the Knight Armatures work in Horus Heresy, and I think we were both a bit bamboozled looking at it again, going, sorry, Armour 12, is that good? I can't remember.
Armour 12 was good. Armour 14 was the best. Lumen Rust was Armour 12. But yeah, it is a totally different game. Although looking at those rules, digressing slightly, I actually thought they did a much better way of bringing those rules to life. So, for example, the harpoon feels super powerful, sort of how it should be. And there's so many more interesting rules because you can only fire it once every 2 turns, obviously, because you're recoiling it on your second turn, like back into your slot. But you've got a really high chance of just instantly killing anything with that gun, which is via a bunch of different rules, like the instant death rule, armor bane, flesh bane, and then even if you wound them but don't kill them, you still do like d6 wounds, which weirdly isn't a rule that ever used to be a thing in 6th edition or 7th edition.
Yeah, not as best as I remember.
Whereas the harpoon in 40k, it's like, okay, it's one shot still, and you do like is it flat 10 damage? Like you do a high amount of damage, but you've still got a good chance of not killing it.
Was it a strength D gun? I can't remember if it was a D gun.
Oh, no, it wasn't actually, which was surprising. But they had a whole bunch of other rules, so it was like one shot strength 9, I think, or 10. Maybe it was more, but it was AP 1. and then it had a bunch of it. Basically, you got to pretty much re-roll everything. So you got to re-roll your armor pen, re-roll your wounds and stuff. So you've got a good chance of killing anything that you're going to hit with that harpoon gun. And the nuanced rules makes you go, oh yeah, this feels like really cool. Like it feels like how I'd imagine it would be. And the 40k version is cool, but it just doesn't quite bring it to life in that same way.
Yeah, no, agreed.
I think Horus Heresy is better, or 7th edition is better, but like I sort of, it was sort of fun to look back and go, oh, this is cool. Like, I like some of these rules. I like the complexity, even though I remember hating playing it quite often.
Pop quiz, Joe. Explain Stomp from 7th edition.
Oh God! So
first of all, you've got to determine how many stomps you get. How'd you do that, Joe?
D3 stomps, wasn't it?
I think it was D3. Yeah, I think that's how it went. And then where did they go?
So you used a small, the 3-inch template,
yeah,
and that had to go within base contact. So the first one had to go within base contact, and then the other one or two then had to be touching that. It could go in any direction, or they all had to be in base contact.
I think they could go in any direction.
I feel like they could go in any direction as well, but it's been a while.
And then you had to roll to see the strength of each stomp attack. So a 1 was nothing, a 2 to 5 was strength 6.
I think that's right. Yeah, strength 6.
Yeah.
AP 3 or AP 4.
AP. I think it was AP 3 or AP 2, and then
it was an AP 2.
It might be AP 3, AP 4, and then a 6 was just D.
Well, no, but was it strength D or was it just removed from play?
I thought it was D.
Because then if it's strength D, you then have to roll on another chart to determine how strong it is.
Yeah, because the 6 on the D was just
removed from play, but then... And then, weirdly, it ignored infund saves, but didn't ignore cover saves? Not stomps,
yeah,
but...
I think D just ignored everything apart from cover saves.
Yeah.
Which was stupid. So if you shot a shadow sword at a unit in a building, if it's really funny. So this thing that could literally immolate a land raider or a bunker couldn't stop a sandbag wall.
Well, it's kind of like Imperial Knights in 8th edition, where their biggest enemy is a crate. Oh God! I can't do anything to you now. You're on a crate. Oh, you.
Yeah. Speaking of rules changes, I think the ruins and cover and terrain is sort of the one thing I'd like to see extrapolated upon in 40k to be a bit better.
Yeah, that is the biggest problem with 8th edition. I think is that they've got all these massive war machines, and they've not ever thought about how they interact with their terrain. So the fact that Imperial Knights just get completely and utterly done over by ruins and trees, it's like, what? It's yeah.
Weirdly, I think in the ITC now, the American league, I think they've now declared things like crates, containers, stuff like that
are just hills.
Just treated as hills.
Huh?
I think that's how you're meant to play it, because...
Which is also weird, because a tank can drive up a hill.
True,
so,
yeah.
Does that mean that you can then have a stack of free containers, like a pyramid, and then have a land raider on the very top?
Yeah, that just seems stupid. But it's weird, because obviously they've got to look at it from a competitive point of view rather than a narrative point of view, and what makes sense. And it's like they've created rules for enclosed ruins, which they've defined, and that's because ITC uses terrain because they sell it as well, I guess, which is like it's 4 walls and a roof. And because the rules don't, I mean, I think they are written correctly for how they interact. So, for example, if you've got the fly keyword, it says you can move over terrain as if it's not there. So a lot of people are assuming that, I've got something with the fly keyword but not the infantry keyword. I can just jump into that building. But it's like, well, no, you can't, because you can fly over it, but you can't fly over something that's got a roof on, can you? So they've had to clarify that now as enclosed terrain. And that's sort of the flaw in GW's terrain rules, is that it works reasonably well for their terrain, but not for other terrain that if you're going to build yourself, for example, sometimes this doesn't work.
So let's close out with a last little pop quiz of old rules, just for a laugh, because I've got the 7th edition codex rules in front of me. So I'm going to pick some at random, and we'll see if either of you can answer these correctly. So, universal special rule. Interceptor.
Oh, this is if something comes on the board, you can shoot at it. And isn't it? Oh no, I'm thinking. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, something that
if something comes in from
has
deep
to be a
strike.
flyer. It
It doesn't have to be a
No,
flying thing. It's just anything
it
comes in.
interacts with Skyfire though. So if you've got Skyfire and Interceptor, I think it bizarrely allows you to also shoot at the ground instead of just being at Skyfire. But
Well,
yeah, I think you can just shoot at something with deep strike.
Skyfire was you could shoot at a model with your full ballistic skill if they were supersonic or had not the fly keyword, but they were themselves a flyer. But if you were to fire at a ground target, you could only fire with snapshots, I believe.
Yes, but doesn't I think there was something like if you have Interceptor and Skyfire, could you then fire at either at full ballistic skill?
Oh, now you're asking. Hang on, let me look up Skyfire. Let's have a gander. Oh no, this is.
I think Interceptor was basically if something arrives via deep strike or arrives on the table, you get to snap shoot at it. Was make snapshots at it. But if you had the Skyfire rule and it was itself a flyer, you could shoot it at a full ballistic skill.
Let's see, what's it saying?
There is no mention here of the two rules combined. Only Skyfire is separate and that, but that could be something that they FAQ'd at some point. I don't have the benefit of that.
They FAQ'd at some point in 6th edition. Never happened.
7th edition, mate. 7th edition.
It was a 7th edition, basically.
They did that towards the end.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another one for you. Pinning.
They'd have to take a leadership test, and if they failed,
You go to the ground.
yeah, they couldn't move.
That
Or
is
fire
correct.
over.
That is correct. So if they failed a leadership test, they are pinned and must immediately go to ground.
Look, we know the rules. We're all ready for Horus Heresy. We can
That's
get
it,
back
man.
into
That's it. Okay, last one of the old rules. Hang on, I'm trying to see one that's not too ridiculous. Strike down.
Oh, jeez. I don't know that one at all.
I don't think anyone ever. Weirdly, Imperial Knights had strike down, and everyone forgot they had it.
I presume it knocks them over. Knocks them over.
Any non-vehicle model that suffers one or more unsaved wound or passes one or more saving throw against an attack with strike down special rule moves as if it was moving through difficult terrain in the preceding movement phase.
Wow.
There you go.
I think Durabo had that.
Most Imperial Knights had strike down, and no one ever remembered that. So if an Imperial Knight ran up to you and went BAM, it's like, cool, next turn you got to move as if you're moving through difficult terrain.
Well, normally, if you've just been bammed by a knight, you're dead.
Well, true, but you know, it was all relative. Wasn't that a lovely trip down memory lane? And a lovely way to close episode 12 of the Lookout Sir 40k podcast. Thank you as always, everyone, for listening and supporting the show. It makes me feel, when I start doing this thing, like I'm about to announce that we've got some kind of place where you want to go and spend money on us and do all that sort of stuff. But we're not those kinds of people, not to belittle those that are. Some people just have to do this for a living, whereas we do it for fun. Aren't we special? Although I imagine Joe would like to make a living at some point.
That'd be quite nice. Maybe I'll become like a cam girl.
Oh, really? Are you offering that service?
Yeah, like Ladybeard.
That would be amazing. That would absolutely be amazing. We need to make that video parody for the next unboxing, right?
Well, yeah.
Whatever happened to those unboxings, by the way, Joe? Weren't we supposed to get stuff? When did that all dry up?
I don't know, because they haven't released a proper 40k box, have they? They did that Demons one, didn't they?
Yeah, where did that go?
Oh, I don't know. I think we were just busy.
Well, that's it, mate.
Of it being announced and coming out, we were like, oh, we're not going to get a video done in time.
No, fair enough.
I think laziness got the better of us on that one.
As it always does. As it always does. Any final thoughts, Phil?
Speaking of box sets, I think there'll be a ton of box sets coming out this year.
What?
Just because, my general theory, and it has been for the last year or so, is rather than just release a kit in a normal box for you to buy, like troops, they'd much rather bundle it in a kind of game for you to then buy with other stuff. So Speed Freaks, for example, and Wrath of Rapture are two prime examples of this. Rather than releasing those new models to you just as kits for you to buy, here's a game for you to buy all this stuff with. So I think we'll probably see more of that next year.
They're preying upon our weaknesses.
Nah, a little bit. No.
Very much so. How many boxes did you buy in 2018, Phil?
I got the Kill Team box, and I got sucked into Forgebane because I really wanted the armatures that I'm still, ironically, not built. So I've got to work on that. I think they're the only two. I think I did reasonably well.
Hey, did all right there. Joe,
you got the Titanicus box.
Oh, yeah, I got Adeptus Titanicus. I forgot all about that because it's up in the loft, hidden away from my girlfriend, so she doesn't realise I bought it.
Unfortunately, she doesn't listen to this podcast, right?
No, thankfully not.
No, absolutely. Wise choice on her part. There you go. Good times. Well, as I say, that was episode 12 of the Lookout 40k podcast. Thanks very much to everyone for checking us out. We look forward to greeting you again when we get round to our next episode. Thanks very much for Rich for turning up at the start. We know we didn't announce him at the start. We probably should have mentioned that, but it was cool. He called us from the Americas and said some stuff about Vigilus, which was all really appreciated. But yeah, thanks very much as always for checking us out. Look forward to seeing you in the future. And yeah, here's to an absolutely amazing 2019. Hope everyone's having a great time, and look forward to producing, as I stated at some point, another 26 episodes of this, or 25 episodes of this throughout the course of 2019. So yeah, here we go. Thanks very much, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. Joe's not saying goodbye. Bye, Joe.
Bye.